When Qingji said this, others were not incomprehensible. A country has undergone such great changes in just a few years, and even the Navy's 6 style skills have been learned. 2 domineering people should also be able to do so. It's not something impossible. It's so scary. What if our Lieutenant General Aoki Pheasant dies there after we pass? Kizaru tilted his mouth and turned his head to smile at Aokiji. Kizaru, can you please stop making sarcastic remarks here? It's just a country in the South China Sea. There's nothing to worry about. Akina said in a cold voice. Okay, let's decide the matter like this first. Kingzi, let me emphasize this matter again. You cannot get involved in their country's war. And after it is over, try not to take action if you can. Otherwise, if someone else is if we seize the handle of our navy, then it will be difficult to say. Warring States said again. Hey! I know Marshal of the Warring States period. Kingzi answered nonchalantly. At present, Chang Nyo has no idea that the navy already knows about them. The key is, what can he do even if he knows? Now that he has begun to lead the King's Guards out, Chang Nyo is no longer worried about others knowing about this matter. They do not belong to the countries that join the world government, so naturally they do not need to worry about it. After coming to this world for so many years, he has a relatively clear understanding of the rules. But now the entire Toru kingdom is still hurriedly extinguishing the flames of war. But the only good thing is that since those pirate groups were destroyed, the progress of the Roha kingdom has completely stopped, and there are still faint signs of retreat. In the palace, Chang Nyo sat at the top, looking at the people standing below with a very serious expression on his face. Different from before, most of the people standing below are young people now. Following the old king, a group of officials from the older generation have now begun to slowly retire, and the power has been handed over to these people. Lista, as the current person in charge of the entire business, can you tell us about the current overall business situation? Chang Nyo looked at a man about 30 years old standing below. He wore a pair of glasses and a more formal suit, and he had a completely gentlemanly attitude. Luosta took 2 steps forward, took out a small book from his pocket, and then said respectfully, Your Majesty, the current business of our country is mainly perfume and cloth, and after nearly 2 years of development, with the development, the perfume business has spread all over the world, and on the Grand Route, there are also channel agents who are responsible for the sales of our perfume. The other is cloth. Now it has just begun to open up sales channels all over the world, but it is not particularly obvious at the moment. Nowadays, the entire perfume production staff, including flower and plant cultivators, has reached about 120,000 people, and the overall revenue of perfume has remained at an average of 5.5 billion belly per month, which is completely enough to support domestic economic expenses. As for cloth, it has just begun. The monthly net profit is almost maintained at around 1.3 billion belly, and it is just the beginning. As for the next step of planning, I think we should start to expand beyond the 4 seas. I hope your Majesty can give me some advice? Listening to Luosta's report, although he was still very unfamiliar with business planning and couldn't talk about important ideas at all, he couldn't help but work very seriously and carefully. Chang Nyo didn't pay attention to the process. Now there is no need to worry about the attack of the Roha kingdom. What is left is to support the economy. I am afraid it is not enough to rely on these 2 alone. Chang Nyo sat there and pondered for a moment, thought for a moment and then said, I have never thought about this aspect of the perfume business before, but how much is the inventory currently? Your Majesty, the inventory of perfume has reached nearly 1 million bottles, which is completely sufficient for our kingdom's current digestion level. Lista said. This thing is now a high-end product. If you want to sell it in the world, it will take a lot of effort. After all, most of the really rich people are outside the world. Regarding this matter, your Ministry of Commerce should plan carefully. In the future, our domestic business will definitely not only have these 2 types. We will train all people with business acumen. We will talk about the other things later. Chang Nyo said. Your Majesty, what are you going to do this time? Gagoya was curious and wanted to ask, but in this situation, what she wanted to say was swallowed back in the end. The Ministry of Commerce will come up with a plan as soon as possible, including the overall situation of the domestic population, geographical distribution, age brackets, employment and living security, etc. In addition, be prepared for expansion. Next, I decide to take over the royal kingdom, so I must be prepared for things in advance. Starting today, you need to be very energetic. Chang Nyo stood up and said seriously, the determination in his voice also made other people's blood boil. Not only that, Chang Nyo's words surprised everyone. The kingdom of Royal was much larger than the kingdom of True, but Chang Nyo actually said that he wanted to win over the other party? A group of people were suddenly at a loss and had no idea what their Majesty the King wanted to do. Your Majesty, do you want to declare war on the kingdom of Roha? Luosta asked with some confusion. What? Don't you think it's possible? Chang Nio's tone was very serious. After all, since this kind of thing has happened once, it is likely to happen again in the future. Chang Nio will not allow the royal kingdom to affect his plans again. Although the overall national strength has now improved, it still maintains its previous pedantic state, and there is still a big bend in the fundamentals of thinking that has not been reversed. Your Majesty, Luosta fully agrees with your wishes. It's a pity that he doesn't have much ability. Otherwise, he would definitely follow your Majesty to the kingdom of Roha. Luosta said with great emotion. Chang Nio smiled politely after saying this. After all, it was good to have someone who supported him. Besides, he had already thought of a response plan before making this decision. Since the kingdom of Roya can fund the pirates to come and attack their country, it mainly means that their own strength is completely insufficient. Now that the entire King's Guard has arrived at the border, the next plan is probably to enter the kingdom of Roha directly. But changing a country's inherent mindset is not as simple as imagined. Lista, how much money do we have left now? Chang Nio asked directly. Your Majesty just made statistics here and found that there are still about 3 billion bailies that we can use now. This is the amount of money that can be used freely after we have put aside our national life. Lista said. Chang Nio sat in his seat and thought for a moment. Now the entire country still has so much money that can be mobilized. In addition, there are nearly 2 billion bailey funds on the country. Let alone want to win this battle. Almost everything can be done. Lista, please go ahead and arrange the next plan, mainly for the kingdom of Euro. After we take over, at least we can quickly get the country back on track, and we won't be in a hurry to do things by then. Chang Nio said. Okay, Your Majesty. Luosta adjusted his glasses and said. That's all for today. As for the rest, we'll discuss it then. Chang Nio said directly. Now, things about the royal kingdom are almost clear, and there is no need to worry or care about other situations. In the entire Toru kingdom, the current strength of the overall strongmen is not very weak. Shunye at least has the strength of a vice admiral, and for others, most of the 6 skills have been mastered to 1 or 2. The current Toru kingdom is definitely no longer as submissive as it used to be. After Chang Nio left the palace hall, he went directly to the palace garden. Here, not only is the environment more elegant and quiet, but the most important thing is that this is his own back garden, and no one will come in at all. But despite this, Chang Nio still felt uneasy and directly used the visceral color to sense the specific situation around him. After confirming that nothing happened, he slowly withdrew the visceral color perception. Rather than saying that this is the entire back garden, it is better to simply say that it is a piece of virgin forest behind the palace. I won't say the exact size of the area, but a relatively large square was built inside. Standing in the middle, Chang Nio's main purpose of coming here today is to get used to the ability of the devil fruit in his body. He has lost his life of contact with sea water, and what he hopes most now is to quickly master all the skills that the devil fruit can produce. But without even thinking about it, how could this thing be solved overnight? With a little force on his right hand, sky blue color appeared on his hand, but he really had no idea about these gadgets, let alone how to control the power of space. But since he can't figure it out and can't let others know, Chang Nio still has the biggest trump card, which is the system in his body. Entering the system space, Chang Nio felt the blue space that he had not been in for a long time. This kind of mechanical science fiction place really gave him an unprecedented sense of security. System, do you have a detailed introduction to the capabilities of space fruit? Chang Nio asked directly. He now fully believes that this is the system space, and it is almost an omnipotent existence. But just when he was still confused, the system's voice jumped out directly, but this time it was not a voice but a prompt sound plus some information displayed on the panel in front of him. The capabilities and training methods of the space fruit are introduced in almost detail above. And the most important thing is that Chang Nio discovered that the method of training space devil fruit is mainly based on training mental power, and the direction of the development of devil fruit can be controlled based on the strength of mental power in the later period. The space fruit has all-round effects such as defense, attack, and movement. After the fruit's ability is awakened. Seeing that the abilities after awakening from the devil fruit were not introduced at all, Chang Nio was a little disappointed, but these early things were enough for him to digest. Especially the mental power cultivation method mentioned just now really makes Chang Nio a little confused. The cultivation method of seeing and hearing color is also based on mental power, and even Bawang color haki is also the same. Now he can't measure the spirit at all. What level of human cultivation is considered appropriate? He was a little embarrassed standing there, but he still subconsciously tried the ability of the space fruit. To what extent did it reach? He stood there and waved his devil fruit effect, and his abilities swept out instantly. A sky blue barrier shape suddenly appeared in front of him. This thing was almost completely transparent, giving people the feeling that there was no defense at all. Strength, let alone the so-called attack power? But is it really that simple? Obviously impossible. But on the same day, Gagoya sat in the courtyard and looked at the newspaper that had just been delivered to him. To everyone's surprise, the headline in the newspaper was about the situation in his country. With the special fighting method of the Toru Kingdom, all the pirates in Rogtown were captured. Just when he saw the contents of the headline above and then looked at the situation below, Gagoya was so frightened that sweat began to form on his forehead. The main reason was that she remembered Changnyo's previous reminder that all the methods practiced by the king's guards were naval skills. If they were leaked, they would most likely be hostile to the navy. But now it was shown openly in the newspaper. She didn't believe that only she had received one copy of it. After confirming the contents, Gagoya hurried towards the palace. At this moment, Changnyo was still practicing and learning his devil fruit abilities, and didn't even notice what was happening outside. It can be said that the entire kingdom of Toru is in great chaos now. Except for the royal city, pirates and wars in other places have not stopped at this moment, but all this has almost no impact on the lives of the people. The people in the kingdom of Toru now barely rely on farming for their livelihood. They were already extremely poor before, but now they rely on 2 factories, which is enough to support the living expenses of the entire country. After 2 years, these 2 factories have not only developed commerce in the Sahai area, but have also begun to gradually spread towards the Great Sea route. Not only that, they have also driven the development of the commercial economy around the factories, making the country more prosperous. The people, relying closely on the interactive economic strength brought by these 2 factories, are completely self-sufficient. Gagoya had been standing outside the door of Changnyo's room in the palace until night. When he saw Changnyo coming back, Gagoya rushed forward instantly. His face was serious and nervous, and he did not have the image of someone in charge of shipping. Changnyo glanced at Gagoya who was standing in front of him, especially her nervous look. She had been waiting here for a long time. What's going on? Changnyo opened his mouth and asked directly. It was so dark now that he couldn't see the person's face clearly, but with the light in the courtyard, he could still see the other person's expression clearly. Your Majesty, what happened to us in Rogtown has already been published in the newspapers, and I think the Navy should also have discovered it. Gagoya said nervously. Go back and rest early. I've known about this kind of thing for a long time. Changnyo had indeed guessed a long time ago that as Rogtown is the Navy's base in the East China Sea, it is normal for many people to pay attention to it. But Your Majesty, don't you need to worry about this matter? Gagoya asked again. Don't worry about the Navy. According to normal time, it is estimated that the Navy will send people to investigate in the next few days. Regarding this kind of thing, even if it is exposed, there will be no problem. Changnyo still said calmly. I see. Gagoya put down the stone in his heart and sighed. But in the middle of things, she always felt that Her Majesty the King must be hiding many things from these people, but it was difficult to ask too many things. Changnyo just smiled slightly and said in a calm voice again, go back and rest early. Don't worry about other things. Then Your Majesty, you should also rest early. Looking at Gagoya's leaving figure, Changnyo still didn't take this incident seriously. Since he could drag his own king's guard out for a walk, he naturally wouldn't worry about being discovered by the Navy. After coming to this world, he has understood everything in detail. Is he not the only one who knows the 6th form of the Navy? Zifa has now left the Navy. As a former naval admiral, Changnyo knows very well what the other party wants to do next. But he still can't guess who will be sent to the Navy headquarters base and in what form. Anyway, his response plan has already appeared. No matter who comes, the result will not change much. This time, Changnyo had no intention of going to the Royal Kingdom's front line, so he could rest assured leaving all this to Junhee. In the entire Luoya Kingdom, Changnyo did not believe that someone could be summoned who was more powerful than Junhee. Although the area of the Roha Kingdom is larger than that of the True Kingdom, the overall military numbers are almost the same. Although the weapons are pretty much the same, the Kingdom of Roha is almost deficient in other aspects. The most important aspect is food supply. Changnyo has a system that can provide unlimited supply as long as there is money, but the Kingdom of Roha is different. The king who just took office, in order to enjoy himself, almost made the entire country miserable, and the people were full of complaints. Among them, this kind of thing was the most common a year ago. Many people in the Kingdom of Roha wanted to join the special army. Of course, some of the Lu Kingdom has indeed come over. Most people have heard about the treatment and living standards of the True Kingdom, even some members of their army, and have no intention of going to war. Changnyo came up with a more damaging method on the battlefield. He used the system space to create hundreds of thousands of leaflets, all of which were sent to the front lines for distribution. Suddenly, the entire Kingdom of Roha began to fall into serious disputes. Sometimes fighting does not necessarily require the use of force, and other aspects can still proceed normally. From the beginning to the end of the fight, Changnyo did not appear once. Junhe led the king's guard to attack the royal city of the royal kingdom in less than 5 days. This is already the closest position to the west of the kingdom of Roha. If the royal city is captured again, the kingdom of Roha will never appear again in the entire pirate world. The area of the true kingdom has increased. This is not just an increase in land area, but more importantly, the number of citizens has nearly doubled. In this era, this is the most important thing. If you want to become the overlord of a party, the first thing you need is your own territory, and the second is the number of people in the country. As long as the number of people increases, there will be enough people to train, at least you don't have to worry that the next generation will not have strong people. The war has been going on for the 6th day, and the overall situation in the country has stabilized. At least it will never be the same state again. The economy among the people has also begun to show an upward trend. However, just as Chang Nyo continued to familiarize himself with the ability of his devil fruit, he suddenly opened his eyes and smiled slightly towards the sea. This was still in his back garden, and then Chang Nyo began to move directly towards the seaside. With the growth of mental power, the system of seeing, hearing, and color is already in an advanced form, but it is now more maturely used. He had already guessed that guests were coming without any special perception. After leaving the palace, Chang Nyo came to the seaside area. This is the beach closest to the palace. This was where he first obtained the system. After observing the surroundings, Chang Nyo sat on a fallen dead tree on the edge of the beach, waiting quietly, looking towards the sea in the distance. But the reality was exactly what he thought. After a while, a man came slowly on a bicycle on the beach. Under the bicycle, when the wheels rotated to every place, the sea surface would automatically form ice to support his entire weight. "Hey, little brother, I would like to ask, how should I get to King Tru's palace?" As soon as King Zi rode his bicycle ashore, he saw Chang Nyo sitting in the distance and resting, so he asked with a leisurely look. "I wonder what you're talking about here?" Chang Nyo asked with a smile. Aoki pheasant is almost 2 meters tall, at least a head taller than Chang Nyo. As soon as he landed, King Zi put his bicycle down there, and then walked to sit next to Chang Nyo. He sat there lazily, listening to what Chang Nyo said, with a look of indifference, but he still said, "I came to see your majesty the king. I want to ask you something, so I don't know about you. Can you take me there?" King Zi had seen Chang Nyo's appearance before. At least that photo was taken recently. How could he not figure out who the big boy in front of him was? It's nothing more than a set of words. Anyway, the purpose of coming here is just to understand the situation. It's okay, but it's just that it seems a little inappropriate for the Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters to come in this way. Chang Nyo said with a smile. It's not like he doesn't know Qing Ji, even if he doesn't know him, but the way he crosses the sea, he can even guess who the other person is with his feet. Ouch! I didn't expect you to know me. It's really surprising. Qing Ji said still lazily. He didn't have any curiosity about how the other party knew his identity, but now that he has reached this point, there are many things that no longer need to be said tactfully. Chang Nyo is also very curious. Even though he has never been to this world before, Chang Nyo still has a good impression of Qing Ji. Among the navy, he is one of the few people who can please him. The two of them sat together on a dead tree, and their conversation was very relaxed, and the conversation was normal, even as if they were two old friends who hadn't seen each other for many years. On this beach, with the sea breeze blowing, it is not very hot. The most important thing is because Aokiji has the ability of frozen fruit. General Aokiji, are you interested in accompanying me to visit our true kingdom? Chang Nyo asked with a smile. It's too troublesome. If possible, I still want to lie there and have a good rest for a while, but since His Majesty King Tru invited it, it doesn't hurt to go and take a look. Aokiji said. Perhaps there is something that can satisfy you. After all, after returning to the Navy headquarters, you still need to report on the situation in our country. Chang Nyo should naturally take you to visit. Chang Nyo's leisurely words made Qing Ji become serious. Did he not expect that the other party had already realized the purpose of their coming? Of course, everyone who should be surprised has already been surprised once. Aokiji would not think that the king of the Toru kingdom was just relaxing here, and he met him by chance. At the same time, he also developed a strong curiosity about this true kingdom. Appearing again, the two of them were already walking on the streets of the royal city one after another. Along the way, people kept saying hello to Chang Nyo, shouting hello, His Majesty the King. It seems that you are very respected by the people in this country. I really don't know how you, little guy, did it. King Zi also saw this scene and asked curiously. He doesn't know how many countries he has visited like this, but the key is that none of them can do the same as Chang Nyo. The simple emotions of the people are definitely not fake. In this case, it either means that this king is really powerful, or that he is very good at winning people's hearts. 10 years ago, Aoki Pheasant also came to this country, but compared with now, it was completely different. The most important point is that even though he was staying at the Navy headquarters, he had heard a lot about the specialties of the true kingdom. Lieutenant General Qing Pheasant, the emotions of the people are very simple. What they want is not that complicated. They just want to have a stable living environment, a place where food and clothing can be provided, and a relatively harmonious and free country. It's just that I'm working hard to give them everything they want. It's being developed now, and maybe life will be better in the future. But all these things also need to establish a path for someone to bear the burden of moving forward. Otherwise, how can we ensure that these can continue? Chang Nyo said. As he spoke, he kept saying hello to the people around him. This street is not particularly wide, but the flow of people is very large. At a glance, there are almost all kinds of shops. Now most of the people in the entire kingdom of True have been concentrated in this royal city, which has turned into an economic cycle, and a large number of businesses have begun to sprout everywhere. Just one decision can change the fate of most people. You are indeed right, but why haven't you thought about joining the world government? Then there is no need at all. You want to say why I don't serve those celestial dragons? Before Qing Ji finished speaking, Chang Nyo took over directly. You can even clearly see the dissatisfaction on his face. Chang Nyo glanced at Aokiji and continued, by joining the world government, you may not be attacked by anyone in name, but the key problem is that the sky is high and the emperor is far away. We are in the South China Sea, and like our kingdom of True. If a small country is attacked by pirates or other countries, I'm afraid that the entire country will be gone by the time you finish discussing it. In addition, and the most important point, I will not allow my citizens to send heavenly gold to those Tianlong people every year. Instead of doing this, why don't I strengthen my own strength? But maybe there will be ideas in this regard in the future. Nothing is static, the premise is which one is more beneficial to us. King Zi may have nodded in recognition, but at the same time, he felt that the little guy in front of him seemed to be a little too dangerous. As a navy, you naturally have your own responsibilities to do, but for us as a small country, what you want to do is not that simple, and growing up is not that easy. In a peaceful corner of the South China Sea, all I can do is to provide these people with better living conditions and a more stable living environment. But now you have seen it, and you must have received the news a long time ago. The kingdom of Roha next door has united with pirates to attack our country, which has also made us miserable and made the people's lives miserable. Chang Nyo said it again, but Qing Ji's face turned green and red upon hearing these words. It's not like he doesn't know the specific situation. Someone has already reported the matter. Now the kingdom of Toru has attacked the capital of the kingdom of Roha. According to the current situation, in less than 5 days at most, the kingdom of Roha will be completely destroyed. Disappear into this world. But he didn't say anything until the end, but he was already full of infinite curiosity towards the little boy in front of him. So what are you going to do about the future direction of this country? Qing Pheasant asked directly for the first time. Let's just live with it. When everything is settled, at least take a good rest for a few years. Otherwise, I'm afraid your world government will be dissatisfied. Once the CP department comes to investigate, I guess it won't be as easy to talk to as you. Chang Nyo, he said with a smile. I didn't expect you know quite a lot, but this is not very good. Having only been exposed to this for less than 2 hours, Aokiji felt that what the little guy next to him already knew really surprised him. Such a remote country actually knew about the CP department of the world government, and it seemed that he also knew about its method. Even if you don't want to believe this kind of thing, there is nothing you can do about it. Why are you so sure of these things? Qing Ji asked. Is there anything I said? I'm afraid you, Lieutenant General Aokiji, are quite clear about the world government's intelligence department, from CP0 to CP9. I guess I don't need to say more about their moral character, right? But I also believe that whether it is the world government or your naval headquarters, no matter how important the matter is in our kingdom of True, you will have no time to take care of it. The situation on the sea is changing, and the great era of pirates is coming. How many troops do you think we have to deal with things on our side? Chang Nyo looked at Qing Pheasant with a sinister expression. Next, he needs to welcome the advent of the era of the 4 emperors on the sea. At the same time, it is estimated that the Shichibukai era will also come soon. The real great era of pirates has just begun. This is the main reason why he is so confident now. Reason? Qing Ji was really getting more and more worried as he listened. Chang Nyo seemed to have everything in his hands, which gave him a very bad feeling. But now that the conversation has reached this point, Aokiji has no intention of continuing the boring conversation. He asks seriously and directly, does your training method here seem familiar? The 6th form of the Navy has officially become a required course for naval training 2 years ago. It can break the limits of the body in terms of attack, defense, and movement. If combined with domineering, it can definitely become the Navy's biggest trump card. Am I right? Chang Nyo spoke out his words again without any attempt to hide them. Qing Zi's heart was as heavy as iron and he didn't know what to say. The only thing he can think about now is whether there are people from the Toru kingdom in his naval headquarters. But Chang Nyo's next words directly rejected his idea. Don't worry, Lieutenant General Aokiji, these things are not coming from your navy headquarters. Our kingdom of True was a relatively poor country 2 years ago and we simply did not have the ability to send people to high-level positions in your navy. In addition, and most importantly, I very much hope that your navy headquarters can give you an explanation for what you did to our kingdom of True in the next few years. If the warring states marshal is not willing, I myself would not mind making this matter public. Then the majesty of your navy will decline. This is definitely not a joke in this era of great pirates. Chang Nyo directly began to threaten, mainly talking about what happened in the True Kingdom 10 years ago. On Batlila Island, the place where the son of the pirate king once came, more than 2,000 pregnant women were killed because of such an incident. This was completely the most tragic incident in the history of Batlila Island. King Zi was also one of the people involved in that incident. Naturally, he knew exactly what Chang Nyo meant by what he said. But the two of them were walking on the street, and there were many people's eyes around them. It was difficult for King Zi to express his feelings. He finally understood that before coming, warring states repeatedly explained that no matter what happened, in True the kingdom is a place where no action is allowed. King Zi, who had always been lazy, suddenly became serious at this moment, and his eyes did not conceal his murderous intention towards Chang Nyo. Vice Admiral Aokiji doesn't have to look at me like this. Of course, I'm more optimistic about Vice Admiral Aokiji. Saikai O'Hara, I think you are still very impressed. What the Navy has done in recent years is somewhat surprising. Are you disappointed? Chang Nyo continued to say provocatively and with a smile. Oh my, it's really a headache. I didn't expect that little guy like you actually knows so many things. Isn't this really embarrassing? King Zi continued to have the same lazy look as before, but looked at Chang Nyo seriously. These were supposed to be Navy secrets, but I didn't expect them all to be known to this 15 or 16-year-old kid in front of me. King Zi's previous prediction of Chang Nyo became more and more obvious. I did not intend to use this information to blackmail the Navy headquarters, but what happened on Batlila Island in my kingdom of True, your Navy must give an explanation for this matter. Chang Nyo looked directly at Qing Pheasant domineeringly, and the domineering look in his eyes was already a bit ready to come out. If it weren't for the people around, maybe they would have started to be released by now. Oh my, it's up to the warring states marshal to do this. I'll just be responsible for conveying it when the time comes. I can't make promises no matter how many things I do. It's really a troublesome thing. Qing Ji said lazily. On the surface, he didn't seem to care about this, but in fact, he had already begun to think about it in his heart. What happened on Batlila Island can be regarded as a shame for the Navy, and it is the kind of news that must never be made public. Now that the King of True Kingdom is talking about this matter, he naturally has some confidence. King Zi is very aware of the current situation in the sea as a whole, and just as Chang Nyo said, the sea is changing, and the Navy headquarters cannot spare any power at all to return to the small country of the South China Sea. Chang Nyo was a little proud. After all, Qing Pheasant's attitude might represent the attitude of the entire Navy. He is not so arrogant now that he feels that his country can fight against the entire Navy. If it hadn't happened to catch up with the era of great pirates, it is estimated that his country would have been defeated several times just because he was familiar with the sixth-style naval skills. It is precisely because of these reasons that Chang Nyo is not worried about the Navy headquarters sending people to investigate. Lieutenant General Aoki has come a long way to work hard. He will stay in our country for a few days and take a look at our local customs. By the way, he can also guide the future national seeds we are currently cultivating. Chang Nyo and Qing Pheasant had already arrived at the entrance of the palace. Seeing that the other party had no intention of leaving in a short time, he opened his mouth and said directly. It's rare to have some leisure time, so I won't disturb His Majesty King True. Look at what you are saying. I think it won't be long before you can become the general of the entire Navy. This is the supreme position of the Navy. There will be many places where the Lieutenant General can be troubled in the future. Chang Nyo said with a smile. I wonder where your Majesty the King got this news from? You seem to know a lot. Aoki Pheasant finally began to ask the questions in his mind. From the moment I first came here, all my rhythms seemed to be under the control of the other person. Whether I was talking or doing things, I always felt like I was standing naked in front of the other person. King Zi had experienced so many things, but only in front of this 16 or 17-year-old boy, he showed a more cautious attitude. Or because I came here, no matter what I said, I was suppressed. After all, I was also a vice admiral. Facing a little guy, the feeling of being seen through was really uncomfortable. When I came here, from the moment I stepped into the territory of this country, I seemed to have an extra pair of eyes on my head. Even this person who usually behaves relatively lazy showed a very disliked expression. Chang Nyo smiled, not that his goal has been achieved, at least in his own country, this is his home court, and he will never be led away by others. I know a lot of things, even more than you can imagine, but so what? Chang Nyo spoke very simply, and they were already in the palace as soon as he spoke. Before Aokiji could ask any more questions, a guard came out from the side and said respectfully to Chang Nyo, Your Majesty, Jun and the guard captain have led the army to attack the capital of the Kingdom of Roha. The guard captain sent us a message. I want to consult here, is the next step to rush in directly or what should I say? Hey, it's already going so fast. Chang Nyo looked at the guard and said, then turned to Qing Pheasant and said, Lieutenant General Qing Pheasant, are you interested in going over there to observe? I don't have any objections. It doesn't hurt to go over and take a look. Qing Pheasant said. Anyway, the purpose of his coming here is to investigate the situation of the True Kingdom's army. It is estimated that the best time to witness it is on the battlefield. Tell Captain Jun He to wait for now. I will take our Vice Admiral from the Navy headquarters to observe. Chang Nyo said to the guard beside him. In fact, these things have already been arranged. If Jun He wants to consult on these issues, he can do it through the phone bug. There is no need for another person to pass the message through. No one can figure out what the king of his own family has in mind. Now the battle against the Roha kingdom is already guaranteed, and there is no possible crisis at all. But Chang Nyo had his own ideas. When he first didn't know that it was Aokiji who came to investigate, he had already thought of countless ways. Even the last thing he wanted to face was Akainu, but he also believed that the Navy headquarters would not send this guy here at all. The fastest way to get from here to the capital of Roha kingdom is by boat, which will take at least nearly 2 days. However, it only took Jun He 5 days to attack the opponent's capital. Almost no one from the soldiers of the royal kingdom encountered along the way stopped him. In this way, we arrived at our destination naturally and smoothly. In fact, if they were willing, they would be able to rush directly into the royal city of King Roha without much effort at all. Among the dozens of countries in the South China Sea, the strength of the royal kingdom is not too bad. Although it is not outstanding at the same time, it is still somewhat remarkable in other aspects. This time when he went to the royal kingdom, Chang Nyo had almost brought the high-level officials of his country with him. The most important thing was to witness the situation this time. As the national ship started to set off, Jun He and others who were able to reach the capital of the royal kingdom directly this time were already waiting. This time, the total number of troops sent by the Kingdom of True to attack the Kingdom of Roha was only about 10,000. The other party's country and population were much larger than theirs, and the number of troops was also much larger than theirs. The difference is that after the King of Royal Kingdom took office, he was opposed by almost all citizens, even the army, who always lived in endless deductions. After just seeing the living conditions of the Kingdom of Toru, even the Kingdom of Roha, which has a larger army, has almost no resistance from its army. They directly open the city gates wherever they go, and there are even many places that have begun to welcome Toru. The kingdom's army arrives. Therefore, in terms of the whole journey, Jun and the others had no impact at all, and they had already arrived at the capital of the Kingdom of Roha. 2 days later, when Chang Nyo appeared here with Qing Pheasant, people saw a rather incredible scene on the city wall. Under the witness of everyone, the people standing on the city wall were not actually troops, but most of them were pirates. They used the people in the city as shields to prevent Jun He and others from entering. However, outside the city gate, there was no trace of any war intrusion. It can be said that from the beginning to the end, none of the troops brought by Jun He were lost. In the past 5 years since the new king of the Kingdom of Roya took office, the damage that has been done to the entire Kingdom of Roya is probably beyond description in words. The national ship arrived directly at the capital of the Royal Kingdom. When he saw the scene on the city wall, Chang Nyo actually smiled. What do Lieutenant General Qing Pheasant think of this matter? Chang Nyo looked at Qing Pheasant with a smile on his face and asked. Your Majesty, most of the troops in the city have been controlled now. However, the number of pirates inside is estimated to be beyond our imagination. Jun He said standing next to Chang Nyo. What exactly is going on? Why are there so many pirates in the Roha Kingdom? Your Majesty, these are all related to the King of Royal Kingdom. Most of the pirates here come from the West Sea. The overall number of pirates is almost 8,000. There are only 2 pirate groups, and there are many powerful ones among them. When they first came to our country, they decided that as long as they could conquer the Kingdom of Toru, all the treasures in our king's palace would be given to these pirates. That's why so many pirates appeared to help the Kingdom of Roha. Jun He frowned and said respectfully. What do Lieutenant General Qing Pheasant think about this matter? Chang Nyo once again put the question to Qing Pheasant. Oh, King True, don't ask me about this kind of thing. I'm just here to watch, and I won't help you. Qing Pheasant said lazily. Are you ready? Chang Nyo looked at Jun He and asked. The other party immediately understood, and a mischievous smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. It took so much effort to finally get Vice Admiral Aokiji from the Navy headquarters here. Naturally, he was not just here to watch. We are already prepared for this, how could we just ignore it so easily? Lieutenant General Aokiji, although I don't expect you to take action this time, I just want to trouble you about something. There are so many pirates in the city, I wonder if you can use your strength to break the city gate? Chang Nyo said. This is a troublesome matter. It would be bad if our marshal finds out. Qing Ji said lazily. Lieutenant General, I misunderstood. I didn't ask you to hurt anyone. I just wanted you to help me break the opponent's city gate. This shouldn't be a big problem for you, right? Chang Nyo said again. Said once. According to the strength of you people, it shouldn't take much effort to open a city gate, right? King Zi was not stupid, but he didn't realize where exactly what happened. But I can always feel that the little guy in front of me seems to be cheating me. Seeing that Aokiji was still hesitating, Chang Nyo said in a deep voice to Jun He next to him, next, take down Royal City at all costs. By then, all the pirates will not need to leave anyone behind. Kill them all. Your Majesty, those people. War will inevitably cause losses. Lieutenant General Qing Pheasant doesn't want to, so we have to do this. Chang Nyo said with a sad face. Okay, it's just a door. I'll just help you. Qing Shi listened to what Chang Nyo said and looked at the other party's appearance, and said with helplessness. I have enjoyed good food and drink here these past few days, and even doing such a thing did not violate what the Warring States Marshal said when he came. Destroying a door doesn't hurt anyone, so it won't have any special impact. Hearing that Qing Pheasant had agreed, Chang Nyo's smile immediately blossomed. Then he looked directly at Jun He with a look that you knew, and Jun He began to slowly retreat back. Just when King Zi was about to take action, several people not far from them were facing him with phone bugs. Not to mention how he could become a general, King Zi just pressed it on the ground, and instantly the frost began to spread towards the door. However, they are about 100 meters away from the gate, but this distance is not a problem at all for a person who is about to become a general. The entire gate of King Roha's capital was sealed by ice in just an instant. When the ice shattered, nothing could stop the people of the Kingdom of True. Of course, at the moment when the gate shattered, hundreds of the king's guardsmen on moon steps, and many others who were moving quickly, all rushed to the city wall in an instant. The people who were held hostage were also rescued in an instant. As for the pirates, at least none of them on the city wall could survive. However, every scene was recorded by the phone bug. This was Chang Nyo's plan. Early the next morning, the newspaper delivery gull had already started sending information about today's situation. And it also occupied the headlines of newspapers. The news that the Kingdom of Roya in the South China Sea was occupied by pirates, and the Navy headquarters admiral is working with the Kingdom of Toru to rescue the Kingdom of Roya instantly aroused everyone's curiosity. The key is the scene where Aoki used his power to break open the gate of royal capital. A whole photo was displayed directly on the newspaper. Whether it is the newspaper headlines, the content, or even the photos, everything has proven the authenticity of the incident. Especially the photo of pirates holding people hostage highlights the authenticity of this matter. The reason why Chang Nyo did this was to provide him with a prerequisite for occupying the royal kingdom. First of all, the pirates captured the Kingdom of Roha. Their purpose of attacking the Kingdom of Roha was just to save the people here. The appearance and action of Qing Pheasant only increased the authenticity of this matter. After all, this thing is the best proof for the Associate General of the Navy headquarters. The witnesses, evidence, facts, and experiences are all displayed here. Even though the Kingdom of Roha has now become the territory of the Kingdom of True, no one from the outside world dares to raise objections. Even if it is the world government, he cannot hold an objection to this matter. Chang Nyo just wanted everyone in the world to know, otherwise Jun He would have been able to lead his people and directly invade the capital of the royal kingdom as early as the beginning. I stayed for such a long time just to wait for this plan to appear. Chang Nyo had every reason to believe in his own judgment. Even if the Navy headquarters sent anyone here, the final outcome would not change in any way. Even Akainu, who is the most difficult to talk to, may be 100 times more complicated than Aokiji, or even easier to talk to. Akainu is a person who upholds absolute justice in the Navy. He will never allow pirates to threaten in this way. Now all these goals have been achieved, and King Zi doesn't even know that he has been used by others. Lista, count how many bailies there are in the entire royal palace of Loya. When the time comes, all of them will be used by the people of Loya Kingdom. As soon as Chang Nyo walked into the city gate, he shouted directly to Lista behind him. Arrive! The key point is that before the king's capital has been defeated, he has already begun to think about how to divide the money next. Even Qing Pheasant, who has always been relatively lazy, looks at Chang Nyo with contempt. Luosta walked forward gracefully, pushed the frame of his glasses with his hand, and said in a very gentlemanly manner, "Don't worry, my majesty, I am still willing to do this kind of thing." We are determined to win the royal capital now, and there are probably no obstacles. As for the devil fruit users in Royal City, June, and you are responsible for capturing them all, and keeping them all alive will be of great use to me then. Changniu said to Junhe. Yes, your majesty. What do you want those devil fruit users to do? Aokiji asked curiously. Of course they must be executed. These people have already caused me to lose many soldiers. Naturally, I need to pay the price they deserve. Changniu said directly. It's just that he didn't say the purpose of doing this. In this world, there are really countless people with devil fruit abilities. Although no one knows where these devil fruits come from, the current Changniu has at least one thing that can be done is to control a killed devil fruit user and the location where his devil fruit descends. Since possessing the space ability, Changniu has been able to control a space barrier. Although this area is not very large, it is completely sufficient overall. King Zi looked at the little guy next to him. It was a bit unbelievable that he had already done such a trick at the age of 16. It was estimated that when he saw the newspaper, he would go crazy. Aoki appeared in the royal kingdom and saw the fighting style of the troops of the Toru kingdom. The most important thing that shocked him was that almost all of these people were trained in the sixth form of the navy. In addition, they were fighting team cooperation is much stricter than that of the navy. A country that was in such a state of ruin could develop to such an extent in just 2 or 3 years. The green pheasant is really unimaginable. What will this little guy become when he grows up? What he was more curious about, and the main reason why he had been following Changniu, was to understand how Changniu knew so many things about the Navy headquarters and the New World. The people in the kingdom of Roha did not resist as expected, especially those in the royal city. Some of them even danced and celebrated that Changniu had brought the army to liberate them. After all, in order to prepare for this time, he spent a lot of money to create a single page of the Kingdom of True, so that each of them could understand the benefits they could enjoy after becoming a citizen of the Kingdom of True. Although the Kingdom of Roha does not belong to the World Government United Nations, in some respects, the people in the World Government are still very concerned about the situation in the South China Sea. This time, if the Kingdom of True merges with the Kingdom of Roha, it can become the largest country in the entire South China Sea region. It's just that the Kingdom of Roha is like this now, and it's probably not sure how long it will take to recover. At least it will take more than 2 years for him to become what the True Kingdom is now. Mainly because its population and land area are much larger than those of the True Kingdom. Mr. Aokiji, I wonder what you think when you saw the guards of my Kingdom of True today? Changniu asked as he walked and looked at Qing Pheasant. In this city of the Royal Kingdom, the two of them seemed to be walking in their own country, without any sense of disobedience. King Zi was even more stunned. He didn't expect that this little guy would actually ask him such a question. It is true that he originally wanted to investigate the situation of the army of the Kingdom of True, and what he discovered this time has surprised him. The Navy's sixth form skills seem to be used more skillfully here, and the training method seems to be better than the training method in the Navy is more effective. After thinking for a moment, Aokiji said leisurely, "That's pretty good. I hope you can maintain law and order here and prevent pirates from appearing in the South China Sea. This is your greatest ability. I think you can rest assured on this point, at least in the realm under my jurisdiction, such a situation will not happen." Changniu said. "Oh, you said I encountered such a complicated thing this time, how should I report it when I return to the Navy headquarters?" Aoki said with a troubled expression. "So what if I tell the truth?" Changniu asked curiously. "Didn't you say it before? It's just that this time when you merge the Roha Kingdom into the True Kingdom, the world government will definitely send people to observe you, and the CP you learned about will most likely come to your country." Qing Pheasant said. "Is this the kind of thing you are talking about? There is no need to worry about it. At least in our country in the South China Sea, there is nothing worthy of the world government's attention. In the end, at best, they just want us to join the world government. If there is nothing special if you join, you will join. Anyway, there will be no loss to our country." Changniu said with a smile on his face. "I remember that this is not what you said 2 days ago? I didn't know who said it at that time. After joining the world government, it was to serve the group of celestial dragons and hand over the heavenly gold. It is very likely that it will lead to a more serious situation in our country. People are in dire straits." Qing Pheasant closed one eye and squinted at Changniu with the other eye. "Does Lieutenant General Aoki feel that the Tianlong people are short of money? They are undoubtedly the most superior in terms of life. At least in terms of money, there is definitely no need to worry. When the time comes, I will give them 2 rare objects, and it will be natural it can replace the existence of gold in the sky." Changniu said. "I really look forward to what your little guy will be like in the future, and even more to how far this country will develop in the future. But in this process, I don't want you to be able to touch the bottom line of the Navy headquarters. By that time, you can be safe in a country. I can't help you." Qing Pheasant said. "I'm not as boring as you think. I'm quite content staying in this quiet corner. There's no need to argue with your navy headquarters. Chang Nyo said with a smile. Then this is best. King Zi now really wants to know, what kind of strength is King True in front of him? Is the other party a devil fruit user? From the time he came here to the present, he had never seen Chang Nyo take action in a week, and his behavior was extremely normal. This was what made Jing Pheasant feel abnormal. Unknowingly, the two of them had been following the army, and now they had reached the front of King Roya's palace. There was no resistance from the army along the way, it was just some pirates causing trouble. But after arriving in front of the palace, almost all the pirates who had been causing trouble had been arrested, including those with devil fruit abilities among the pirates. But this palace gave everyone a very bad feeling. If you look at it through sight, hearing, and color, you can sense that there is a very evil aura in the palace, as if it should not exist in this world at all. Do you feel it? Chang Nyo asked with a serious look at Qing Ji beside him. Of course I feel it. I have a very bad feeling. King Zi put away his lazy look and said with the same serious face. Jun He, arrange for everyone to retreat immediately. Without my order, no one is allowed to come within 500 meters of the palace. Let everyone enter the first level combat readiness state and get up to 12 points. Chang Nyo shouted directly to Jun He who was standing not far away, and then looked at Luosta and said in a low voice, Luosta, arrange for the people in the city to evacuate, and you must use the fastest time to do this. You must do it well. No one understood what happened. Although Jun He believed in His Majesty the King, he was still stunned after hearing these words. What are you doing in a daze? Take the time to prepare. Chang Nyo yelled again. It was not until this moment that everyone realized that the matter had indeed developed to a very serious level. Level 1 combat readiness was not achieved even when attacking the royal kingdom. Even Aokiji, as a marine, had a sense of color that made him a little frightened. What was hidden in the royal palace in the kingdom of Roya? At this moment, all the guards of the kingdom of True who had been besieged here all began to retreat quickly, and Luosta began to command these guards, so that the people outside the palace began to leave this place. Now none of them know what is hidden in the palace, but the only thing that is certain is that the things in the palace must not be simple. The release of powerful energy directly makes people shudder. Jun He commanded all the guards and immediately began to assist Luosta in helping the people retreat. However, at this moment, a blue smoke began to emit from the palace. The huge smoke began to spread in all directions, and all the people in the palace began to run out as if they were desperate. Lieutenant General Qing Pheasant, have you seen anything? Chang Nyo asked seriously. It should be a devil fruit, and the ability of the devil fruit has not been controlled yet. If this thing breaks out among the people, no one in the entire city will be spared. Aokiji also said with an embarrassed look. I came here just to investigate the matter, but now the situation is serious enough that I may have to take action. Jun He, Luosta, hurry up and arrange a retreat. After Chang Nyo shouted, he started to prepare to rush inside. As the smoke continued to fill the air, those who had not escaped from the palace fell to the ground one after another. Those who had already started to run out began to scramble towards the outside. King True, this matter seems a bit troublesome. This is a matter between your two countries. It is not convenient for me to get involved too much. King Zi wanted to stand here and watch at this moment. After all, he really cannot participate in the affairs between the countries. Fight. All he can do now is to help those people avoid suffering. As for the rest, Qing Pheasant really can't do it. Chang Nyo didn't force it but just smiled and said, I hope Lieutenant General Qing Pheasant can ensure the safety of these people. As for the rest, I think our King's Guard is capable of solving it. But after all, at this time, a dog-like creature jumped out of the palace. The reason why I say this is because this thing is simply astonishingly big. When he stood up, he was almost as tall as a building. He was about 20 meters tall, and the smoke emitted from his body made it impossible to describe him as a dog. Help! Who can help me? Suddenly, those who were preparing to escape from the palace were yelling as they ran. Mad, what on earth is the king of Loya doing? He's actually feeding devil fruit to dogs. Chang Nyo looked at the situation in front of him with some anger. Fortunately, this thing doesn't know the ability to control devil fruit at all, so it can't use it with its own strength. But now that the characteristics of this creature are known, there is no need to worry about other things. The demon sword Muramasa instantly appeared in the hands of Chang Nyo. Qing Ji looked at it with some curiosity. He wanted to see this person who had trained the country's king's guard to be like this. So what kind of strength did their king have? But when the demon sword appeared, Qing Pheasant was still a little surprised. As a person who has lived for decades, Qing Pheasant can tell at a glance that the knife in Chang Nyo's hand is not simple. Chang Nyo directly stepped on the moon steps and flew up, and then he was 200 meters away from the huge wolf dog in an instant, and then a sword flash flew out instantly. The powerful force didn't even take a second to penetrate this huge creature. But what happened next was beyond everyone's imagination. After the sword light penetrated the creature instantly, it seemed that it was not harmed at all. Natural fruit. Chang Nyo was completely speechless. If he were not here, his guards and the people would have died who knows how many times. A wild creature with natural energy, and it can't control the demonic energy emitted by its body. The key is natural energy, and ordinary people's attacks are useless. Now in the entire Toru kingdom, Shunwei is the only one who can skillfully use haki. But faced with such a situation, even if he has domineering power, there is nothing he can do. He cannot get close to this huge creature, so everything is in vain. The people in the city had begun to evacuate in an orderly and rapid manner with the cooperation of the king's guards. However, they all turned around and saw this huge creature. No one said that they did not feel fear. The royal palace came up with such a thing, and Chang Nyo had reason to believe that after this guy couldn't control the devil fruit ability in his body, everyone in the entire palace was probably already cold. I didn't expect this guy to be a swordsman. But if he didn't have domineering power. King Zi looked at Chang Nyo who was fighting, his eyes full of admiration, but at his age, if he could kill the domineering force, that would be the ultimate way to end the battle. But before he finished speaking, he already saw Chang Nyo's arms turning black, and his domineering aura instantly attached to Muramasa. Dragon Nest Flash Bite. A slash with domineering power flew out instantly. The black sword light once again flew towards the huge canine creature. The other party seemed to have felt the threat and started yelling at Chang Nyo. And accompanied by the blue smoke, it rolled towards Chang Nyo. But at this moment, the sword light has already attacked the opponent. Just one blow of the knife caused this huge creature to fall to the ground instantly. With the death of this canine creature, the devil fruit ability originally attached to him also dissipated instantly. At this time, the entire palace area had completely turned into a dead silence. No one survived, and every one of them even maintained the panic look they had before they were alive. Originally, I had just started to feel the huge accumulation of energy, which should be this thing, the devil storm formed after eating the devil fruit, but at this moment, there is no need to worry about other things. The matter between the kingdom of Toru and the kingdom of Roha is now over. In the end, no one from the royal family of the royal kingdom came out alive. The flying slash is really surprising. King Zi said to himself. No wonder he was so surprised. Even though the dog had eaten the devil fruit and didn't know how to control it, the aura and energy it exuded were definitely not something that ordinary people could deal with. For those who use swords, flying slashes are completely beyond the scope of swordsmen. To be precise, the current Chang Nyo is completely a swordsman-like figure. To have become a swordsman at such an early age is something that countless people cannot achieve in their lifetime. However, Qing Pheasant didn't know that this level of strength was just scratching the surface for Chang Nyo. After the battle with the dog, Chang Nyo jumped down from the air. Now that the kingdom of Roya no longer poses any threat to all of them, they only need to take over the territory belonging to the kingdom of Royal with their heart. But for everyone, this attack on royal capital was indeed a thrilling one. But the good thing now is that things are finally over. This time the battle will make the headlines of the entire newspaper. Thank you very much Lieutenant General Aokiji for everything you have done for us. Chang Nyo slowly walked up to Qing Pheasant and said to him. It's really rare. What King Tru said is really a bit uncomfortable. I was just a spectator, but I didn't expect King Tru to be really surprising. King Zi said calmly and lazily. I didn't expect that the Lieutenant General could say such a thing. In front of you, this is nothing more than wielding a sword. There is no real harm. It is nothing more than self-protection. Chang Nyo said with a smile. Your Majesty, now that the matter in the palace has been resolved, do the people in the city still need to retreat? Junhee stepped forward and asked Chang Nyo respectfully. No need for now, you and Luosta will count how many aboriginal people there are in the Roha kingdom. Follow the rules of the true kingdom. It must be accurate to the number of people in each family. Also, it's about their living conditions and current situation. In the future, these will also be our own citizens. Don't treat them with any mentality. Chang Nyo said. Okay, Your Majesty. Now it's time for you to deal with your country's affairs. I have learned everything I came here to know, so I won't bother you here anymore. It's time to return to my naval headquarters to report on this incident. Journey. Qing Pheasant also stepped forward and said. Chang Nyo, no matter what, the other party is still the master of the country, and the attitude and understanding that Qing Ji should have still need to be abided by. Why are you in such a hurry? Lieutenant General Aokiji rarely comes to our kingdom of True once. After a few days of good rest, let us do our best as landlords and entertain the Lieutenant General well. After all, this time on your side, too it helps us a lot. Chang Nyo said with a smile. It's no longer necessary. Your place is now a place of right and wrong. It would be better for you and me to leave as soon as possible. Aoki Pheasant still said. As Qing Ji said this, he was already preparing to leave, not giving Chang Nyo any chance at all. Now that I have understood what I need to understand this time, I can give an explanation when I go back, which at least means I have completed the task. Watching Qingxi leave, Chang Niu showed a successful smile on his lips. The real fun is yet to come. Where are we now? Lista, Lieutenant General Aokiji came to our Kingdom of True to help us rescue the Kingdom of Roha. We must do a good job in publicity to tell others about the friendly relationship between us and the Navy. Niu said to Luosta, who was now standing next to him. Don't worry, Your Majesty, everything has been arranged now, and there will definitely not be any problems. Lista adjusted his glasses and said. Let's go and take a look at this luxurious royal palace of the royal kingdom. Maybe we can move the location here in the future. It feels pretty good. Chang Niu walked in front, looking at the entrance of the palace where corpses were still lying on the ground. The luxury of this place was countless times better than where he lived now. Your Majesty, do you want us to clean up the palace first? Lista said. Is it necessary to care about such a thing? Living in this world, if you want to live well, the first thing you have to do is not be afraid of anything. Luosta, as a business leader, you will have to face too many things in the future. Niu said. Yes, Your Majesty, I have remembered it. Luosta stopped and said respectfully. He didn't pay much attention to it. No one was going to clean up the things in King Roya's palace now. Most people had already gone to maintain order. Although almost no one in the entire Roha kingdom objects to the invasion of the true kingdom, there are still many people who want to take advantage of the chaos. Chang Niu stepped over the corpses and then walked towards the palace with domineering steps. Here, what you can see with every step you take can only be described as luxury. For a place as poor as the Roha kingdom, it takes a lot of hard work from the people to build such a palace. The highest point of the entire palace is about 100 meters tall. The facade of the building is somewhat similar to the European style, and the columns that appear in front of you are shocking. Just stepping into the palace gate and seeing the marble paved on the ground, even an inexperienced person can feel how expensive it is. The ground was polished as smooth as a mirror, and no trees were planted on both sides of the road. Instead, it turned into an unusually large lawn square. The green lawn makes people want to go up there and just lie down and have a rest. The road under your feet goes straight forward, and the details in every frame are quite extensive. And this road extends from the main gate of the palace to the main hall. This distance was at least about 300 meters away, and because of the demonic ability released by the big dog, the whole road was almost covered with corpses. No one has a detailed count of how many people there are, but there must be at least 1,000 people. The corpses in front of him no longer caused any shock, at least to Chang Niu. Perhaps he has begun to gradually adapt to such an environment. After all, after coming to this world, he has to face these things frequently. For him, he cannot have a heart of kindness at all. So he still stepped over the corpses and slowly began to walk towards the palace hall, while Luosta followed with a few people. If it weren't for the presence of so many corpses, the scenery of this palace could be said to be perfect, but even if there were so many lying on the ground, it would hardly affect the beauty in this aspect. However, after entering the palace, everyone was astonished by the luxury inside. The same circular dome, but at least 50 meters high. In the wide hall, even the sound of breathing began to echo. The throne at the top of the hall, it doesn't take much thinking to know that this must be the exclusive place for King Roya. The golden seat is obviously made of pure gold. A huge red gem is inlaid on the top of the seat. It is almost 2 meters wide. It is no problem to seat 2 or 3 people. The walls on both sides of the palace, including the pillars, are all decorated with gold. Just the decoration of the palace hall would be impossible to complete without billions of belly. As a country with a very large land area, the Kingdom of Roha has always been in dire straits of living conditions for its citizens. It is really unimaginable. What is the level of extravagance of this king? There are no corpses in this hall. They must have run out, so it looks particularly elegant and luxurious. The top dome of the palace is entirely made of glass. The light shines down along the glass, making the palace look magnificent as a whole. Your Majesty, this place is so shocking. Luosta looked like he had never seen the world before and said with emotion. I don't know how many people's flesh and blood these things are made from. It's really surprising. But now I'm more curious about one thing, that is, how much money is there in this king's treasury? Chang Niu smiled. Said. Your Majesty will make the statistics as soon as possible and submit them to Your Majesty at that time. Lista said. What do you think about moving the palace to this place in the future? Chang Niu asked. It's not impossible. It's just that the two places are far apart. I think the location of our true palace is better. The Nanhua port has been established and perfected. After that, all the commerce began to be concentrated in that place. However, it is different here. It's not that convenient in comparison, Lista said. You're right, it's a pity that such a wonderful building is missing. Chang Niu said with a slight sigh. The business content I planned before will be implemented in this area as soon as possible in the future. After staying here for 2 days, we will hurry back. Let's sort out the plans we need to make in the future from beginning to end. I don't require that cities like Jiluo and Gokengli become like ours now within 2 years, but at least within 2 years, all the people's survival problems must be solved. The question, as to what should be done next, is something you must consider. You must give me a plan before you go back. You are not only the country's money bag, but more importantly, you are the god who maintains the lives of the people. Chang Niu said calmly to Luosta with no expression on his face. However, after the other party heard this, he looked cautious, but inside he was filled with excitement and other emotions. This is a big project, and even Luosta has to treat it with caution. Fortunately, he and his people have already been considering these things before, and now they are just making some slight changes based on the actual situation of the country. When Luosta was recognized by Chang Niu for the first time, he was just the person responsible for communicating with the outside world in the palace. Chang Niu liked this guy's cleverness and brains, and directly made him go from the lowest level to a top cadres of the country. But the facts have proved that Chang Niu's overall decision-making was not wrong, and Luosta has indeed demonstrated his value in the true kingdom. From the beginning of the country's poverty to the present, earth-shaking changes have been achieved in more than 2 years. Although all the planning was issued by Chang Niu, Luosta was the implementer from beginning to end, and there are many aspects all have exceeded Chang Niu's early forecasts. Now that Luosta heard that His Majesty the King had achieved such a mission, he no longer felt the anxiety and excitement he felt at first, but felt more of a sense of responsibility and responsibility. Luosta rarely pushed up the frames of his glasses. He crossed his hands on his waist and bowed respectfully. He said in a calm and soft voice, "Your Majesty, don't worry. I will definitely make a comparison for you in the past 2 days. Satisfactory planning. You have worked hard on this matter, and the country will not forget what you have done. All the hard work will be paid back to you in the future." "Your Majesty is serious," Luosta said quickly. Chang Niu looked at the hunched-over Luosta and patted his shoulder with relief. Luosta was nearly 10 years older than Chang Niu, but his thinking could make everyone surrender. "Let's go and take a look at what the King of Royal Kingdom looks like, and let others look for him. I don't know where he died at this time," Chang Niu said with a smile. "King Roya? Your Majesty, the big fat man lying on the ground in front of the hall just now should be King Roya." When Luosta heard what Chang Niu said, he immediately thought about it. "After all, when I came in just now, I noticed that the big fat man lying there who was completely dead, and the crown on his head, was obviously not someone else. Moreover, there were no people in the palace hall, and it was obvious that almost all of them died. Outside, as for their king, a guy with little strength, it is naturally impossible to run faster than others." "Really? Then we'd better take a look quickly." Chang Niu was really as curious as a child at this moment. When he came in, he really didn't pay much attention to the people lying on the ground. Anyway, they were in the main hall now. Walking out the door is just a matter of a few steps. But when I walked out, I saw a fat man who looked to be at least 500 or 600 pounds lying on the ground. The clothes he was wearing were made of cloth made in his own country. He was decorated with such luxurious decorations, especially the crown on his head, which was inlaid with more than a dozen huge gems. As for the big fat man's face, no one wanted to see it. He was dead now anyway, and Chang Niu didn't even think about taking one last look at him. "I have never seen what he looks like before, and I don't want to know about it now. It's just that I know that the other party is indeed dead, which is more important." After Chang Niu knelt down and looked at it for a while, he confirmed his true identity and rolled his eyes in contempt. "I really don't know how this guy has survived all these years. As a king, it would be quite shameful for him to die if he has brought his country into such a horrible state. Luosta, this guy still has some valuable things on him. He won't need them since he's dead anyway. Remember to put them into the treasury." Chang Niu turned his head and said to Luosta who was standing behind him. "Don't worry, Your Majesty, I will definitely do a good job," Luosta said with a smile. When Chang Niu said such words, several people behind him, including the guards, were a little surprised. No matter how quiet he was still the leader of a country. Although he failed now, his identity has not been lost. A person has just died and his body has not yet cooled down. If you start to treat him like this now, it is really satisfying. Outside the palace. "Junhe, captain of the guard, there are too many people who are unwilling to go back and want to see our king. How should we deal with this kind of thing?" On the streets outside the palace, people who were originally planning to evacuate to the royal city, because after the big dog died and there was no threat, all began to ask to return to where they lived, but now the streets are still overcrowded, and there is no one he had a hostile mentality, but instead he had a huge smile on his face. Each of them is looking forward to seeing the face of His Majesty the King of True Kingdom, at least to let them remember what the king who came to save them looks like. When Junhee heard his subordinates report this matter, the expression on his face was generally helpless. Before this, except for encountering this kind of situation in the royal city of my own country, I had never thought about or heard of it in other places. Especially when their country has just been occupied, it is indeed surprising that ordinary people still have such great enthusiasm. Junhee was also very helpless. He had already seen this scene, but he could not directly let the guards disperse the enthusiasm of the people. After thinking for a while, Junhee could only say to the guards below, "Let's do this for now. But we must pay attention to maintaining order and not let any problems occur to these people. There is also a high possibility that there will be people in the crowd who are unfavorable to His Majesty the King. People, you must also pay attention to these things." Yes. Junhee turned to look in the direction of the palace. He also wanted to take a look there, but as the captain of the King's Guard, he still needed to understand the priorities of the matter clearly. Especially for Junhee, on the surface he is just the captain of the King's Guard, but in fact he is almost equivalent to the general of the entire country, responsible for supporting the deployment of the entire country's army. The burden on him is also very heavy. In this country, as far as he feels, the most powerful person in the country besides His Majesty the King should belong to him. "Gaju, come here!" Junhee shouted while looking at a young man standing not far away who was chatting. After hearing the sound, the other party hurried over and shouted respectfully, "Captain of the Guard, what are your orders? How are the captured pirates doing now?" His Majesty the King specifically ordered that those with devil fruit abilities must be well controlled. Junhee looked at each other and asked directly. "Don't worry, Captain, these people are completely under control and have all put on restraint collars. They are all in cages now, and there will be no accidents to any of them." Jeju replied seriously. "How many people have been confirmed to have devil fruit abilities? What are their abilities?" Shunye asked again. "Captain, these things have been confirmed. A total of 11 devil fruit ability users have been captured in the entire Roha Kingdom. According to interrogation statistics, these people are all from the West Sea. The devil fruit abilities have also been recorded in detail and can be submitted at any time. Over to you and your Majesty." Jeju stood at attention and replied. "You must not be careless. The more this time comes, the more careful you must be before telling them to be more alert." Junhee said. "Each of those pirates has already put on a neck collar, and this thing is made of fine steel. It can even be said that it cannot be made with the current technology. It also incorporates the characteristics of Sea Tower Stone, which can completely suppress demons. The ability of those with fruit abilities. In addition to its own hardness, the inside is equivalent to a bomb that can explode at any time. Changnyo also spent a lot of money to buy it from the system space. The main reason for purchasing these gadgets is to deal with devil fruit users. Now they are considered lambs to be slaughtered, but no one knows whether some special situations may happen next. On the surface, everything is going very smoothly, but in reality, no one dares to guess what is going on. The kingdom of Roha is different from the previous kingdom of Toru. There are already many nobles in this country, and almost all of them are the king's confidants. They usually squeeze and treat the people harshly when doing things. But when the war broke out, all those so-called nobles disappeared overnight. No one can guarantee whether they will have any backup in the end, but in a place like the South China Sea, Junhee fully believes in the strength of His Majesty the King, and it is enough to dominate this area. But even so, he is still meticulous in doing things and does everything to perfection. This is the kind of result he wants. It's time for the next day. The lively thing these days is not the true kingdom, but the Navy headquarters base. Because the Toru Kingdom attacked the Royal Kingdom, the newspaper finally turned to save the citizens of the Royal Kingdom. The key was the blue pheasant attached to the photo. Even the world government was completely helpless when it saw this kind of thing. The moment the newspaper appeared, the news almost spread throughout the pirate world. The newspaper office spared no effort to copy these things. At this moment, whether it was the pirates, the navy, the world government, or other countries, they all knew that there was a country like the Toru Kingdom in the South China Sea. Moreover, it was clearly marked in the newspaper that we are forever friends with the navy. The newspaper this time can be regarded as causing 1,000 waves with one stone. The newspaper not only contained information about the friendship between the Toru Kingdom and the navy, but also included photos of King Toru and Aoki Pheasant chatting. The most important thing is that there is no way that Changnyo will miss this opportunity to promote its own country. The various advertisements above are also flashy. Anyway, in this era, few people are aware of this marketing method. But those people at the Navy headquarters base are all dumbfounded now. Aokiji hasn't returned to the Navy headquarters base yet, but now the phone bug in his arms has rang countless times. In the Naval headquarters base. Wow haha. There was a laugh that couldn't stop. Garp looked at Warring States. The moment he saw the newspaper, he couldn't help but laugh. Garp, you bastard, can you stop laughing? Don't you want to go back to your hometown in Donghai? Get out of here and don't let me see you again. Sengoku yelled angrily. However, Garp continued to smile and eat as if nothing had happened. The newspaper in his hand was still there. The most conspicuous place was the photos of Changnyo and Aokiji. I didn't expect that a group of us old guys would be tricked by a little king this time. The key to rescuing the country controlled by pirates is that our Navy's Associate General also participated. The little guy made a good calculation, and now it is estimated that even the world government is having a headache, and even so, they can't say a word. Garp said with a smile, but he also admired the other party's scheming. Taking over a country and not being criticized by everyone outside was the most brilliant method. The key is that as soon as this newspaper comes out, the Navy headquarters base is equivalent to having an agreement with the Kingdom of Toru. The Navy Commodore is involved in the war. No matter how you look at the Navy headquarters base, you will not be able to escape this time. Garp, what do you think we should do now? Before I left, I specifically told Aokiji that no matter what happens, he must not participate in the battle between the two countries. But look at the current situation. It was announced so obviously. Warring states said still somewhat angrily. What's the use of pursuing these things now? Instead of that, why not see what the little king wants to do? I think this matter is definitely not an accident. The whole thing is like a big chess game for us to jump into. Garp said. However, for Changnyo, when he first went to Rogtown and did not restrict the abilities of his subordinates, his purpose was to send someone from the Navy to prove the trust between his country and the Navy headquarters. There is a friendly relationship between them, but although things have changed qualitatively now, the final outcome is what they want to see. Even this time the war between the two countries has pushed this matter to a peak. So now the entire naval base is in a complete headache, and the last thing they want to see is this kind of thing. The Navy headquarters itself pursues absolute justice and does not favor any country or force. But now that this incident has occurred, the balance of this so-called absolute justice has tilted. In any case, this matter has a relatively large impact on the Navy, but they have nothing to do. After all, the era of great pirates has arrived. All major forces on the sea have gradually merged, and the era of pirates has also begun. It has developed to its peak. The Navy is already exhausted just to deal with these pirates, let alone deal with the true kingdom where the sky is high and the emperor is far away. The South China Sea itself is the weakest among the four sea areas. Even if something like this happens, the Navy headquarters base can only suppress the matter. But in the office of Marshal Sengoku at the Navy headquarters, Garp and Sengoku looked at each other, probably feeling unspeakable pain in their hearts. Garp doesn't care, but the Warring States period is really full of troubles now. As a wise general, he really doesn't have any good ideas at the moment. I will go back tomorrow. This matter will not have much impact on the Navy. I believe King Tru will not make any excessive moves. He will wait until the pirate situation is stabilized. Just go deal with it, Garp said. It can only be the Warring States also said. But what they didn't know was that in the following days, the true kingdom's business development path had reached a rapid speed. All merchant ships hang the flag of the Kingdom of Tru and the flag of the Navy and sail on the sea. Even if they encounter pirates, they don't have to stay away. Even if they pass by them, few pirates dare to attack them. This thing is the purpose of Changnyo. Business is the economic lifeline of this country. This is the cheapest and simplest way to maximize benefits. Because after this incident, let alone whether other neighboring countries had any thoughts about the true kingdom, in terms of strength, they did not dare to make any move. Since the kingdom of Roha was occupied, the entire kingdom of Tru has become the largest country in the South China Sea. The population of the entire country also belongs to the largest among all countries in the South China Sea. The Tru Palace was still the same one as before. Changnyo did not choose to use the more luxurious Luoya Palace. Instead, he chose to demolish the whole place and put all the valuable things into the palace treasury. If they really use the palace of the original kingdom of Roha, let alone the possibility of being criticized by people with ulterior motives, the things in front of them will not be of any benefit to them. The royal palace of Tru is close to the coast, and the royal city has become the core area of economic development of the entire kingdom of Tru. These things cannot be abandoned. Changnyo doesn't have the same idea as King Roha. It's really useless to live in such a luxurious place. Instead of doing this, it's better to improve the country's economy. But most kings have not considered this kind of thing, or have no such concept at all. These people hardly cherish the throne that has been passed down, otherwise their country would not have become so impoverished. 1 month after this incident ended, the first major meeting was held in the royal palace of Tru. There were a lot of people participating in this big meeting, almost 100 or so people. The kingdom of Tru also began to plan to carry out special reforms of its own country. The newspaper this time can be regarded as causing 1,000 waves with one stone. The newspaper not only contained information about the friendship between the Toru kingdom and the navy, but also included photos of King Toru and Aoki Pheasant chatting. The most important thing is that there is no way that Changyo will miss this opportunity to promote its own country. The various advertisements above are also flashy. Anyway, in this era, few people are aware of this marketing method. But those people at the Navy headquarters base are all dumbfounded now. Aokiji hasn't returned to the Navy headquarters base yet, but now the phone bug in his arms has rang countless times. In the naval headquarters base. Wow, haha. There was a laugh that couldn't stop. Garp looked at Warring States. The moment he saw the newspaper, he couldn't help but laugh. Garp, you bastard, can you stop laughing? Don't you want to go back to your hometown in Donghai? Get out of here and don't let me see you again. Sengoku yelled angrily. However, Garp continued to smile and eat as if nothing had happened. The newspaper in his hand was still there. The most conspicuous place was the photos of Changyo and Aokiji. I didn't expect that a group of us old guys would be tricked by a little king this time. The key to rescuing the country controlled by pirates is that our Navy's Associate General also participated. The little guy made a good calculation, and now it is estimated that even the world government is having a headache, and even so, they can't say a word. Garp said with a smile, but he also admired the other party's scheming. Taking over a country and not being criticized by everyone outside was the most brilliant method. The key is that as soon as this newspaper comes out, the Navy headquarters base is equivalent to having an agreement with the Kingdom of Toru. The Navy Commodore is involved in the war. No matter how you look at the Navy headquarters base, you will not be able to escape this time. Garp, what do you think we should do now? Before I left, I specifically told Aokiji that no matter what happens, he must not participate in the battle between the two countries. But look at the current situation. It was announced so obviously. Warring States said still somewhat angrily. What's the use of pursuing these things now? Instead of that, why not see what the little king wants to do? I think this matter is definitely not an accident. The whole thing is like a big chess game for us to jump into. Garp said. However, for Changyo, when he first went to Rogtown and did not restrict the abilities of his subordinates, his purpose was to send someone from the Navy to prove the trust between his country and the Navy headquarters. There is a friendly relationship between them, but although things have changed qualitatively now, the final outcome is what they want to see. Even this time the war between the two countries has pushed this matter to a peak. So now the entire naval base is in a complete headache, and the last thing they want to see is this kind of thing. The Navy headquarters itself pursues absolute justice and does not favor any country or force. But now that this incident has occurred, the balance of this so-called absolute justice has tilted. In any case, this matter has a relatively large impact on the Navy, but they have nothing to do. After all, the era of great pirates has arrived. All major forces on the sea have gradually merged, and the era of pirates has also begun. It has developed to its peak. The Navy is already exhausted just to deal with these pirates, let alone deal with the true kingdom where the sky is high and the emperor is far away. The South China Sea itself is the weakest among the four sea areas. Even if something like this happens, the Navy headquarters base can only suppress the matter. But in the office of Marshal Sengoku at the Navy headquarters, Garp and Sengoku looked at each other, probably feeling unspeakable pain in their hearts. Garp doesn't care, but the Warring States period is really full of troubles now. As a wise general, he really doesn't have any good ideas at the moment. I will go back tomorrow. This matter will not have much impact on the Navy. I believe King Tru will not make any excessive moves. He will wait until the pirate situation is stabilized. Just go deal with it, Garp said. It can only be the Warring States also said. But what they didn't know was that in the following days, the True Kingdom's business development path had reached a rapid speed. All merchant ships hang the flag of the Kingdom of True and the flag of the Navy and sail on the sea. Even if they encounter pirates, they don't have to stay away. Even if they pass by them, few pirates dare to attack them. This thing is the purpose of Changyo. Business is the economic lifeline of this country. This is the cheapest and simplest way to maximize benefits. Because after this incident, let alone whether other neighboring countries had any thoughts about the True Kingdom, in terms of strength, they did not dare to make any move. Since the Kingdom of Roha was occupied, the entire Kingdom of True has become the largest country in the South China Sea. The population of the entire country also belongs to the largest among all countries in the South China Sea. The True Palace was still the same one as before. Changyo did not choose to use the more luxurious Luoya Palace. Instead, he chose to demolish the whole place and put all the valuable things into the palace treasury. If they really use the palace of the original Kingdom of Roha, let alone the possibility of being criticized by people with ulterior motives, the things in front of them will not be of any benefit to them. The royal palace of True is close to the coast, and the royal city has become the core area of Economic development of the entire kingdom of True. These things cannot be abandoned. Changniu doesn't have the same idea as King Roha. It's really useless to live in such a luxurious place. Instead of doing this, it's better to improve the country's economy. But most kings have not considered this kind of thing, or have no such concept at all. These people hardly cherish the throne that has been passed down, otherwise their country would not have become so impoverished. 1 month after this incident ended, the first major meeting was held in the royal palace of True. There were a lot of people participating in this big meeting, almost 100 or so people. The kingdom of True also began to plan to carry out special reforms of its own country. Early in the morning, the entire periphery of the palace is now filled with people, almost all of whom are ordinary people. Of course, there are also guards maintaining order. After the kingdom of Roha became the kingdom of True, all the people are now looking forward to this meeting. After all, this time will be the moment that changes their destiny. Not only the Roha people, but also the original Toru people attach great importance to it. There are even many people who have traveled thousands of miles to come here just to learn about the content of this meeting as soon as possible. Such a prosperous situation is impossible to see in any country in the pirate world. The surrounding people are always crowded, and more people are coming here. Changniu, who was staying in the palace, naturally knew what was going on outside, but now overall, he was a little helpless. But before this meeting started, he had already arranged a national live broadcast, but not many people were standing in front of the live broadcast. Junhee was the person in charge of the security of this conference. He stood on the wall of the palace and shouted directly to the people below, "Everyone, I am Junhee, the person in charge of the king's guard." His Majesty ordered that all personnel are not allowed to enter the palace. It's so crowded that His Majesty has placed live broadcast stations in every area, where you can intuitively see the live broadcast of this palace meeting. Because most people didn't know anything about the live broadcast station before, so they crowded in front of the palace. After hearing this, Jun and the king's guards under his command also began to explain. The whole process lasted for more than half an hour, and the crowd began to slowly disperse. As for those who still refused to leave, they had no choice but to reset a live broadcast station in front of the palace. Different from the live broadcast using phone bugs, these things are purchased by Changniu from the system space, which can at least maintain sufficient stability. After all, they can't get a phone bug that can live broadcast at all now. The key is that this thing needs to be cultivated from an early age, otherwise it will be completely unusable. Such a large area in the palace hall is now filled with tables and chairs. This meeting may be a bit long, and they are not allowed to stand and chat. Many unfamiliar faces appeared in this meeting. Changniu presided over it himself, and Luosta was responsible for the content of the meeting. They had been discussing things for several days, so naturally they needed to be carried out slowly. Everyone who is sitting here is concentrating and maintaining a high spirit. They didn't chat with each other or even make eye contact. They were all looking forward to Changniu's arrival and the official start of their new national journey. The meeting is scheduled to start at 8 am, and everyone inside and outside the palace is now protected by the king's guards. And because the True Kingdom has always been on the headlines of newspapers recently, even those newspapers in the New World have people coming to search for hot news. Changniu's residence. Your Majesty, the meeting is about to begin. Are you ready? Outside the room door, the servants and maids shouted softly. Not long after she finished speaking, Changniu opened the door. He looked very different today. Standard king's clothing, a white uniform, a light yellow shirt lined with a white bow tie, and it looks completely custom-fitted, making Changniu look quite elegant at this moment. Wearing a golden crown on her head, there is no so-called gem inlay, but it looks elegant and elegant. Has everyone arrived yet? As soon as Changniu opened the door, he directly asked the maid who was bowing her body to salute. Your Majesty, everyone has arrived and is currently waiting for Your Majesty to go, the maid said. Not only did they arrive, those people had already started to go before dawn at 6 o'clock in the morning, sitting there waiting for the meeting to come. After listening to what the servant said, Changniu nodded slightly, and then took out another pile of paper from the room, which was almost as thick as a book. Take it with you and let's go there too. Changniu directly handed the information in his hand to the maid, and then said calmly. Even Changniu attached great importance to this meeting. After all, it involved the country's future planning, and such an opportunity did not come every time. Now that the initial stabilization of the country has been completed, then comprehensive economic development will begin. As long as money comes in, the rest will not matter at all. Outside, whether it is the live broadcast venue in the royal city or the original kingdom of Roha, the live broadcast stations in every city are already crowded with people, and they are all protected by the army to prevent overcrowding and damage. All the people also put down what they were doing and ran to the live broadcast station to watch. They all wanted to know what benefits would come to them next. The key is that although every place is a bit crowded, it is surprisingly quiet, and no one will argue about whether they are in the front or behind. And before 6 o'clock in the morning, the live broadcast content had already started. The palace hall was empty at first, and finally full of people, waiting until the meeting is about to start. The people were feeling anxious. After all, they didn't know what benefit this would have to them. However, in the nearly month of publicity, everyone has already understood that the content of the meeting is mainly aimed at the future direction of the country. It's His Majesty the King. His Majesty the King has appeared. In the eyes of everyone, Chang Nyo walked into the palace hall dressed in king's clothes and elegant. In an instant, all the people shouted for him. This was also the first time for many people to see the king of their country. Although he is very young, no one looks down on him. In the palace hall, as soon as Chang Nyo appeared, everyone stood up immediately and everyone saluted respectfully. When he arrived at his seat, Chang Nyo smiled and said, "Everyone, get up. Today's content is a bit long, and it is a meeting in front of all the people of our country. I hope everyone can stop talking nonsense today and all decision-making meetings will be completed and implemented at the agreed time." "Yes, Your Majesty, I will definitely abide by the principles of this meeting," Luosta said respectfully. Chang Nyo walked to his seat and sat down directly. At the front of the entire hall, there was a camera. This thing was much easier to use than a phone bug. Not only are high-definition images presented, but the sound is also synchronized, and there is no need to worry about being interfered by anything. After Chang Nyo sat down, the others began to sit down one after another. Everyone was upright and had meticulous expressions on their faces. This is a live broadcast meeting for the whole country. If you are not careful, you may attract criticism. It was also the first time for Chang Nyo to do such a thing, but overall he looked very calm and indifferent. "Your Majesty, this is the content to be discussed at this meeting in accordance with your request." Gagoya played the role of a secretary this time and looked very stylish. Wearing standard professional attire, with a bun, a white shirt on the upper body, a hip skirt with black stockings, and 5-centimeter high heels, he looks very elegant and professional. "Just put things down first. Sit aside and be ready to record things at any time." Chang Nyo replied in a low voice with a smile. "Yes, Your Majesty." After Gagoya retreated and sat there, Chang Nyo sat upright and straightened his current clothes, looking more mature. Then there was no need for him to say anything more. The people below started pushing the camera in front of him and stopped about 5 meters away. Now all the live broadcast screens outside are showing the appearance of His Majesty the King. At this moment, no one spoke, it was quiet, and even the sound of breathing and heartbeat could be heard. Chang Nyo coughed twice, and then with a smile, he waved and said, "Hello, hello, people of the Kingdom of True. There may be many people who don't know me. So let me introduce myself first. I am Genji Nagano, the king of our Toru kingdom, an ordinary person living in the same place as everyone. I am honored to be the king of this country, and I am even more fortunate to have you as my people. This is my honor and my responsibility. More than 2 years ago, when I became the king of this country, I thought with all my heart that in the future I must let my people live the prosperous life they want, at least to ensure that you can, in your future life, no more worries about food, no more worries about warmth and coldness, no more worries about safety. As the King of True, today, we are opening the first national live broadcast meeting of our true country. The purpose is to let you know that we can bring you the life you want in the future, and how should we do it? Whether you are an original Toru citizen or a Roha citizen who has just joined this big family, from now on you all belong to the same identity, that is, you are a member of the big family of our Toru country. It is you who have given us rights, status and honor. To this end, all of us will spare no effort to create the living conditions that our Kingdom of True deserves. For this reason, I am willing to solemnly swear here that the people will be the most important thing that our country of True puts first. As the King of True, I am also willing to advance and retreat together with you. Of course, we are also very grateful for your expectations for us. If there are shortcomings in the future, we also hope that the people in front of the live broadcast station can give timely corrections and replies." After Chang Nyo finished speaking, he sat where he was and nodded directly to show his courtesy. However, other people sitting in the main hall were already shocked and dumbfounded. How could a king of a country say such a thing? The key is to face the people of the country. It's just that they don't know at all what's happening outside now. After the words of His Majesty the King in their eyes fell, almost the whole country was silent for a moment, and then there were sudden shouts in front of every live broadcast station. They all shouted directly about their Majesty the King, and most of them were even moved to tears. It's no wonder that they behaved like this, especially the previous Roha nationals. They have been treated in such inhumane ways for who knows how many years. Now that they have come out of such a devilish life, they suddenly feel as if they have entered heaven. His Majesty the King is actually so amiable and willing to put them first. This is what makes everyone feel moved. The king personally took the initiative to communicate with them and introduced himself. Indeed, many people had never seen their king before, but after this time, the image of Changniu had been deeply imprinted in their minds. Such words of encouragement, not to mention these ordinary people, even the soldiers who were responsible for guarding the live broadcast station, were all moved and confused. The first public appearance has already caused such a sensation. Even the reporters from other countries and the Grand Line had a look of shock on their faces. They must have met many more people than these common people. At least one thing that is certain is that among so many countries, Changniu is definitely the only king who can say such a thing. The reporters kept taking pictures and flipping the phone bugs in their hands. In addition, others also started to communicate with people at the headquarters through the phone bugs. However, after Changniu finished speaking, the photographer began to quickly retreat back with the camera, and the screen locked onto the entire palace hall again. This time, after the king spoke first, it was fully confirmed that the meeting had officially started. The solemn scene also made everyone watching start to become quiet, for fear that they would miss something if they didn't listen carefully. After sorting out all the emotions, the meeting finally began to officially begin in the main hall. This is the first national meeting of the Kingdom of True. Let me first talk about the introduction and rules of the meeting. First of all, the person who led this meeting was our great King of True. A total of 176 people participated in the meeting, and the content of all the meetings was broadcast live to the entire Kingdom of True. The following meetings will focus on comprehensive discussions, and everyone must remain quiet until the topic of discussion comes up. Luosta stood up, looked at everyone and said loudly, he was the host of this meeting, so he was naturally qualified to say such a thing. No one sitting there spoke. It goes without saying that these rules were explained to them. However, it was just the first time for them to participate in such a formal meeting, which made some people feel excited and uneasy. In addition, there were too many people watching this meeting outside. In some respects, the number of people watching this time was not only the citizens of the True Kingdom, but was also broadcast to other countries by other reporters. The key is that the content of this meeting does not need to be hidden or kept secret. It does not hurt even if people from other countries know about it. It seems that everyone has no objections. If this is the case, then I will announce that the first national meeting of the Kingdom of True will now officially begin. Seeing that no one spoke, Luosta shouted loudly. After Luosta's words fell and he paused for a while, Changniu sat down and began to say leisurely, the purpose of hosting this meeting today is mainly for the comprehensive development of people's livelihood issues in the future, considering that many people may not have experienced related things, so the content of this meeting will start from the simplest place. First of all, the first question is about the overall arrangements of the former Roha nationals who have just integrated into our big family. The citizens of the former True Kingdom now have enough living standards and conditions to have enough food and clothing, and they also have their own jobs and responsibilities. The country has now developed its own brand and economic resources, so the new members of the family will be our top priority next. Now, let Minister of Commerce Luosta talk about the national economic site planning of the former Kingdom of Roya. Changniu looked directly at Luosta and said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Luosta said respectfully, then turned to look at everyone and stood up. Then he took the draft paper that he had prepared before and said loudly, following the order of His Majesty the King, during this period, we have already begun to sort out the information about the former Roha citizens' overall planning situation. The total population of the original Kingdom of Roha was 27.68 million, of which about 25.25 million were unable to meet the daily needs of food and clothing. They were severely economically poor and backward. The arrangements for this group of personnel in the future are as follows. What Luosta said was almost like a report, not only to Changniu, but also to the entire Toru Kingdom National Association. After all the reporting questions were finished, the citizens outside did not know what to say, and even stood there dumbly. Starting from today, they at least already know that their True Kingdom will have many more processing plants, which will include wine, beverages, tobacco, food, household utensils, and a series of other products to choose from. Jobs and factories. For them, the most important thing is, and for the True Kingdom, this meeting is essentially the biggest propaganda. And it's the kind of publicity that can be done without any money at all. At least it can let the outside world know that there will be bigger moves in the Kingdom of True next. The citizens of the entire country are not as excited as they imagined at this moment. Everyone is holding back their restless hearts because they want to continue listening and know which options are better for them and their future life choices. But even though there are so many factories to be built, with so many citizens, it still seems like a drop in the bucket. Fortunately, the current territory of the True Kingdom is large enough to accommodate this series of developments. After Luosta finished speaking what he wanted to say, everyone else was taking notes seriously, as if they were afraid of missing something. The people who came here to participate in the meeting were not only the former citizens of the Kingdom of True, but also the citizens of the Kingdom of Roha who had just surrendered, as well as the original army leaders. They can be happy with their current life, at least it no longer has the same wandering life as before. This meeting is of vital importance to everyone. There is no distinction between them, and most of the participants are young people. Their thoughts will be more jumpy, and their ability and degree of handling things are much higher than those of older people. Now that the leaders are already there, you need to do things down to earth these days, and there is no need to worry about other things at all. There is a plan above, but all you need to do below is a plan. This operation of the True Kingdom has indeed refreshed everyone's understanding of national politics, and this kind of open and transparent current affairs politics has made those people full of expectations for their future lives. But while their meeting was going on, there were people in other places thousands of miles away watching the live broadcast simultaneously. Wei, why are you here? Didn't I agree that my father has something to do today, so you can go out and play by yourself first? In the same palace, there was a little girl who looked to be only 7 or 8 years old. She had long blue hair and looked very kawaii. She ran in quietly and suddenly appeared next to a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s. At this time, several of them were also watching the live broadcast of the meeting in the Special Kingdom. But the live broadcast they saw was nothing more than a broadcast of the video footage from the live broadcast station in the Kingdom of True. The little girl named Wei smiled and asked curiously, "Father, what are you looking at?" "Father still needs to take a good look at some big things in other countries. You go out and play with them quickly. Don't stay in the room and disturb us." The middle-aged man who spoke also wore a crown on his head and wore black clothes. He looked very extraordinary. This is Alabasta, a desert country, and it is also an unavoidable scene in the plot of One Piece. It belongs to the largest country on the Great Line, and it is not formed in the form of an island. However, the land area of this country is much larger than the current Kingdom of True. The king who speaks is Cobra, a man who currently holds absolute power. "Father, if I don't want to make any noise, then I'll take a look too," the 7 or 8-year-old girl said coquettishly. However, there was not only the king in this room at this moment, but also several princes and ministers. Faced with this situation, Cobra didn't want to miss any link, so he could only smile helplessly, then hugged the little girl and sat on the seat next to him. At this moment, the first meeting of the True Kingdom was in progress, and almost every word spoken made him, the king, deeply moved. After all, such a situation is too rare. A country can announce the political affairs it will run next, which is completely unexpected by the kings of other countries. What I didn't expect is actually far more than that. It's more about people's planning for the national economy. This is the top priority, including how many people should be corresponding to the establishment of each place, and how many years will it take for economic development. These times must be accurate to within a rough range. These things are things that the kings of these countries have never dared to think about. Cobra has always believed that as long as the lives of the people in his country are better, then he, the king, has done a good job. However, he did not expect for a long time that a person in this country with the countries in the South China Sea are actually able to handle national affairs in such detail. The people in the room were staring at every move on the screen, including the details of everyone's words and actions, all listening carefully. However, in the center of the screen, the king of Toru Kingdom, Changyo, has always been sitting. At the age of 16, he gives people a very mature and stable feeling. "What's the population of our country?" Cobra suddenly asked the people sitting behind him. He had never thought of such a thing. The several ministers behind him also looked at each other, and they already knew the answer without thinking too much. "Your Majesty, our country's land area is too large, but most of it is desert. In terms of population, it may not be as large as the Kingdom of True," a minister behind Cobra said bravely. However, when he said this, even he was probably embarrassed. "Study carefully, a country run by a teenager has surpassed our country that has lasted for thousands of years. I have to say that this broadcast of the Trudeau National Conference can also make us feel deeply." Cobra did not blame the minister behind him, after all, he had never thought of such a thing. Looking at the people talking freely on the screen, Cobra already felt ashamed. "Dad, what are you looking at?" Wei, who was sitting next to Cobra, finally asked in a low voice the question in her heart. She couldn't understand everything she saw in front of her. She couldn't even understand what the other party was saying. Wei, look good, this will definitely become the king who will lead an era. Even my father was deeply touched when he saw this. Cobra said calmly and emotionally. "Your Majesty, I believe that the national conditions of the Kingdom of True are very different from ours, and many things cannot be covered in one article." As soon as Cobra finished speaking, the minister behind him who had spoken just now opened his mouth to speak again. "Do you think I know what you are talking about? The key question is not at all." Cobra said, turned to look at his daughter Wei, and said with emotion, king of the Toru Kingdom, Genji Changno, I have met his father twice. This little guy became the king at the age of 14. This year at the age of 16, he has already cleaned up the mess left by his father in order. Not only that, but the country's economy and military are no longer what they were before. It can be said that under his leadership, the true kingdom will soon become the most powerful country in the entire South China Sea. Dad, are you serious? Wei Wei asked with surprise. Well, it's just a matter of time. Cobra said with a smile. Don't worry, Dad, Wei Wei will definitely be stronger than the other party in the future. Seeing the serious look on Wei Wei's face, Cobra smiled happily, and then continued to look at the content on the screen. Another place. In a dark-looking room, several old men were also looking at the scene in the true kingdom in front of them. Every expression was not very good, but at this time, an old man with a goatee opened his mouth and said directly, let CP2 go and inform the king of Toru Kingdom to let him join the world government. I really can't believe that such a shrewd king can appear in such a weak place in the South China Sea. Should we let CP0 investigate first to see what is going on in this country? As soon as the old man with the goatee finished speaking, another bald man wearing a white robe and holding a long knife also spoke. It seems that the wife and children of Roger the Pirate King were in this country back then, right? Another old man with a mustache said. Yes, I am quite impressed with this matter. The wife of Pirate King Roger is indeed in the Toru Kingdom. The bald old man holding the knife said. It's better to just let the CP tell them to join the world government, and leave the rest alone for the time being. The old man with the goatee said again. Then let's do it. The old man with a mustache said nothing more, and several people acquiesced to this attitude. This national meeting of the Kingdom of True did indeed attract the attention of kings from many countries. Of course, some seriously reflected on their actions, while others felt that the Kingdom of True existed just to attract attention. Everyone has a different opinion, but their vision cannot determine the future direction of the True Kingdom. The meeting continued, and almost only two things were discussed throughout the morning. Chang Nyo hardly said anything during the whole process, just to watch everyone's attitude. Most of the people on the field were young people, and everyone was full of motivation. He just dropped the topic, and Lista made all the arrangements. After all, they had already discussed the issues to be discussed in this meeting before. The purpose of holding such a meeting this time was to let the people of the country know how the prosperous era that will come next will proceed. Chang Nyo didn't know that there were so many people outside watching his country's meeting, but it all didn't matter. Even the old men in the world government have already considered the issue of joining the world government, but for the current Toru Kingdom, joining the world government is not a problem. After all, the national economic level is now rising. After joining the world government, it is nothing more than a matter of paying the heavenly gold. But for the following Toru Kingdom, the advantages of joining the world government will be much greater than now. After all, when sailing your own goods on the sea in the future, you no longer have to worry about being plundered by pirates. After all, you can directly summon the navy to fight behind your back. This is the biggest benefit of joining the world government. The heavenly gold provided is nothing more than a protection fee. But all this is just a drop in the bucket for the current True Kingdom, and the regulations for heavenly gold are not just gold, silver, and jewelry. Goods can also be used instead, provided that the group of people at the top can satisfy it. Your Majesty, should we take a break at noon before proceeding? In the main hall of True Palace, Luosta Zhan looked at Chang Nyo and asked in a low voice. That's it for this morning. Regarding economic and commercial development, we will inform you immediately. The relevant person in charge must seize the time to implement it as soon as possible. The matters discussed in the morning will be here first, and we will continue to discuss other matters in the afternoon. Let's break up the meeting first. If any of you don't understand something, you must communicate with Lhasa Tower as soon as possible. Don't make mistakes again. In our country, leaders will never allow such low-level mistakes. Chang Nyo also stood up and spoke directly to everyone in the hall. They have been meeting all morning, and the people outside have also been watching all morning. For these people, everything they want to discuss involves their own real interests. However, the contents of these meetings that are actually broadcast live are actually irrelevant. What really needs to be strengthened are those things that cannot be broadcast. Before this public meeting, many people had already begun to study a number of issues, most of which included military and political issues, and there were also discussions on issues that may arise in the future. Most of these things are aimed at the real-time politics and military strengthening theories of the entire pirate world. It only took half a month since the Roha Kingdom merged into the True Kingdom. The military and politics of both sides have been integrated. It is unknown how many people in the middle cooperate. But what can be confirmed now is that Junhee has begun to search for some soldiers with good physical fitness and suitable for training among the entire army, and all of them are training according to the National Guard training method. It is estimated that within a few years, the entire True Kingdom will be able to look down upon the entire South China Sea. Although they can do this now, they are not so anxious. Recuperating their energy is the most important issue. At present, the entire kingdom of Toru has an army of about 500,000, but the number of soldiers who can actually reach the selection of entering the guard is not particularly large, but even 10,000 people are completely enough. In the one-day meeting, almost all the future patterns have been decided. The people can really feel the prosperity of their country now, and they spare no effort to cooperate with the issues issued by the above. In the following time, the kingdom of True almost entered the era of production. But there is one more thing that needs to be dealt with in the meantime. Those were the pirates with devil fruit abilities that they encountered when the Toru kingdom conquered the royal kingdom. The third day after the meeting, Chang Nyo met Junhee, the captain of the National Guard, alone in the palace hall. This meeting could be classified as absolutely confidential. It's not that the meeting is not confidential, but the content of their conversation is the kind that must not be spread out. Shunye, how are you dealing with the pirates with devil fruit abilities now? Chang Nyo asked calmly, standing next to Shunye. Your Majesty, they are all in the prison in the royal city now. Each of them has been wearing a restraining ring. I can guarantee that there will never be any trouble. Junhee said respectfully. I asked you to investigate their devil fruit abilities before. Have you found out all of them? Chang Nyo asked again. Everything has been researched and put on this piece of paper for your Majesty to take a look at. Shunye respectfully took out a piece of paper from his pocket, which was filled with dense content. It almost covered all the captured pirates with devil fruit abilities, and what their devil fruit attributes were. After watching for a while, Chang Nyo couldn't help but sigh, 17 devil fruit users. Where did Sahai come from so many things? Your Majesty, my subordinates have also interrogated this matter. Several of them were almost purchased through auctions, and the rest were all obtained by luck or robbery. Junhee said. Bring all these people secretly to the secret room in the back mountain tomorrow. The whole process cannot be seen by any other unrelated person. Chang Nyo suddenly said with a serious face. Yes, Your Majesty. Although Junhee didn't understand why, he didn't ask and could only follow Chang Nyo's request. It's just that when Chang Nyo looked at the devil fruit abilities of the 17 people on this paper, some of them were indeed quite useful, but most of them were almost useless devil fruits. The best one among them is probably the superhuman petrified fruit. His ability can turn everything he touches into stone. This thing will play an almost vital role in the future infrastructure construction of the country. As for the other devil fruit abilities, none of them were worthy of his attention anyway. But in terms of combat effectiveness, the abilities of these devil fruits are not useless, and they will always have their own unique existence. Now for the Toru Kingdom, or for Chang Nyo, there is not a shortage of devil fruits in the country. In the original royal palace, they have found 6 devil fruits, although the quality is not very good. But overall it's pretty awesome. Chang Nyo's idea is very simple, that is, to convert all these devil fruits into the strength of the country. Each devil fruit has its own unique existence, and it can naturally be used. A dozen devil fruits, even for a country on the Grand Line, possessing so many at once is considered a luxury, let alone in a land all over the world. Chang Nyo looked at the list in his hand again. If these things were replaced by Bailey, this country would be rich for a while. But what they lack now is not money, but the ability to plan for the future. Early the next morning, Shunye had already led a team of guards and secretly moved all 17 pirates with devil fruit abilities to the back hill. In this place behind the palace, there was no one at all. No one will come. Although there are no guards, the only way to get to this place is from the palace. Chang Nyo slowly came over at noon. Some of these pirates were scared to death and no longer had the original majesty and domineering power. This so-called secret room in the back of the palace is just built in a cave, and the area below is very wide. Even if it can accommodate 10,000 people, it will not be a problem. When Chang Nyo arrived, Jun and his group bowed directly and saluted. As for the pirates who had been restrained, they could only become lambs to be slaughtered. They had no ability to resist and could only stay there obediently. This person was tied to a rope, and everyone had a restraining collar hanging around their neck. There was no sign of possible escape. None of these people take the crimes committed by the True Kingdom seriously, and now they are just struggling to survive. Chang Nyo nodded to Jun and the group of people, and then looked at the pirates who were bound there with a half-smiling expression. There are no windows in the entire underground chamber, and there is only a long passage leading here. Even if you don't speak, the sound of breathing can echo inside. Chang Nyo took a look at this group of people. These guys had killed their own soldiers at that time. At least nearly 200 people were lost in their hands. Junhee, let the others go out first. Let's stay and have a good chat with these guys. Chang Nyo said to Junhee with a smile. In fact, before Junhee could say anything else, the guards had already started to leave. Then the two of them and that group of people were the only ones left in the entire underground secret room. The silence in the air was terrifying. Junhee had no idea what His Majesty's plan was. Why are these people brought to this place? It seems that you are the little king of the true kingdom, right? I warn you to let me go quickly. My uncle is a big pirate on the Great Channel now. If I know that you imprisoned me in this place, then your entire country will be facing disaster. Before Chang Nyo could say anything, a relatively large pirate with a huge scar on his face shouted to the two of them in a fierce tone. I asked you to prepare fruits in advance, have you brought them all? Chang Nyo ignored the other party and looked directly at Junhee and asked. Your Majesty, these people have killed many of our soldiers, and two of them even slaughtered our people. Do we still need to give them fruit? Junhee said reluctantly. You'll know in a moment. Chang Nyo said with a half-smile. With such an expression, Junhee was even more confused, unable to guess at all what His Majesty the King was thinking. Haha, hurry up and bring the fruits to the uncle. I miss these things after not eating them for a long time. I didn't expect that you little guy is quite good. Just let the uncle go and give him 100 million belly. Before I will no longer pursue the matter, uncle. At this time, another pirate with a big beard was talking to himself and laughing. They didn't seem to have any idea what they would face next. However, the other pirates all had the same expression, full of disdain, accompanied by an expression of indifference. Boy, let me go quickly. I will remember your favor from now on. If your kingdom of True encounters any danger, I will be willing to come and help you as long as you give me money. That Scarface just now, the man said again. Shut up. If any of you opens your mouth to speak again, he will be the first to die. Chang Nyo said angrily, the key is that in this underground secret room, their roaring voice is really noisy, and the sound keeps echoing here, which is really annoying. Junhee, bring all the things here. No matter how surprised you are by what you see next, you must not let out a word after you walk out of here. Chang Nyo said to Junhee with a serious face again. Yes, your Majesty. Although Junhee was confused and had no idea what was going on, he still nodded seriously. But at this time, a blue light suddenly emitted from Chang Nyo's body, and a protective shield like a barrier suddenly appeared in the entire secret room and underground palace. Suddenly, everything outside, including the sound itself, disappeared, and what was left seemed to be an independent space. This is... Junhee was surprised, but he didn't dare to make a sound. Which one has the lithification ability? Chang Nyo looked at Junhee and asked directly. This. Without thinking, Junhee pointed directly at the scarred man who had been talking before. At this moment, the pirates also realized that something was wrong. The scarred man stood up and shouted directly, Bitch, what on earth do you want to do? Junhee, kill him. Chang Nyo said in a cold voice. Junhee just paused, and then without any hesitation, he was in front of the scarred man in an instant. Now that these pirates have been bound by devil fruit abilities, they have no ability to resist at all, and are even worse than ordinary people. Junhee penetrated the other person's heart with just one finger. The scarred man, who was so arrogant just now, has now turned into a corpse. However, Chang Nyo's eyes were not on their pirates, but instead focused on the rows of fruits not far away. All kinds of fruits are placed here just for this moment. After Junhee killed the scarred man, he followed Chang Nyo's gaze with curiosity and looked at the fruits. But the next scene directly overturned his three views. On top of the originally ordinary fruit, a bunch of bananas instantly changed its original color, becoming earthy yellow with a circular texture, and directly attached to the banana. Chang Nyo walked slowly to the banana. Is this thing still a banana? It has completely transformed into a devil fruit. At this moment, the other pirates began to feel uneasy after seeing this scene. This thing was the first time in their lives that they encountered someone who could directly extract the existence of devil fruit from others. Junhee opened his mouth in surprise and his eyes almost fell out of his head. He finally understood why Chang Nyo said just now that no matter what happened, he must not say anything after going out. If this matter were to be revealed, such serious consequences would definitely not be something their true kingdom could bear. King True, we know we are wrong, just give us a chance. No matter what your orders are in the future, we will definitely do whatever you want. The bearded man who looked arrogant just now quickly knelt down and begged for mercy and shouted. The prayer in his voice, mixed with fear, made even his words tremble. Chang Nyo was not in the mood to deal with these guys, and now he was already immersed in his own plan. Although I had speculated before, I never thought it could actually be done to such an extent. This ability can be called heaven-defying. There are countless devil fruit users in the entire pirate world, and there are many powerful ones. However, the emergence of this situation will definitely subvert the entire pirate world in the future. When a devil fruit user dies, the fruit's ability will be attached to a nearby matching fruit, but this is not absolute. It may be said that 1 or 2 out of 100 will make this choice. But now that we have the space barrier, it is completely different. The devil fruit ability can only be attached to fruits within the space, otherwise there is absolutely no way to break through this space barrier. Junhee, what do you think of this thing? Chang Nyo smiled, picked up the devil fruit in his hand and handed it to Junhee. Your Majesty, I feel like I'm in a dream right now. I didn't expect you to be able to extract the devil fruit? And the blue light around here shouldn't be the same. Junhee didn't finish his words, but he left some questions. Chang Nyo didn't shy away from him at all. After all, the two of them could be considered grown up. Although Junhee was a few years older than him, he had been protected by him almost since he was a child. Chang Nyo smiled and said, yes, this is the devil fruit ability, but it's just different from what you imagined. Regarding the matters here, including my own abilities, I hope you will not tell anyone about it no matter who you meet in the future. Our country is still too weak and cannot bear the impact of some rumors. Don't worry, Your Majesty, Junhee will definitely keep it secret and won't let a third person know what happened today. Junhee replied with a serious face. Devil fruits are a good thing, but there are too few of them. Chang Nyo said to himself. Your Majesty, these people. Junhee glanced at the other pirates, then opened his mouth and asked Chang Nyo. Kill it. There are 2 animal-type ability users here, which are pretty good. You can eat them later if you like, but I suggest you don't because the abilities of these 2 animals are too weak. If there is a chance later, I will find a few good ones for you and distribute them to your subordinates. Although they are not top-notch devil fruits, the overall situation is pretty good. Chang Nyo said leisurely, not taking the group of pirates seriously at all. Now that others are not dead, they have already begun to discuss the act of dividing people's abilities. Yes, Your Majesty. Junhee could no longer hold back his excitement. Although he had never thought about obtaining devil fruit abilities before, His Majesty the King had already begun to take the lead, so naturally people like him should not be left behind. He didn't have any hesitation about these pirates. Anyway, it was so easy to kill these pirates who were worse than ordinary people. It couldn't be easier. In less than a while, the fruits in the underground secret room began to change one after another. 17 people finally transformed into 17 devil fruits, and none of them escaped. Although these things are not top-notch products, overall they are better than nothing. After sorting all the devil fruits together, Junhee looked at Chang Nyo, and then directly asked, Your Majesty, how do you deal with these corpses? Chang Nyo glanced at the 17 corpses on the ground, then directly removed the current space barrier, and stretched out his left hand directly in the direction of those people. At this time, he saw that these people were all covered with a slight blue color. Of light. Exile. Chang Nyo shouted these 2 words softly, and then all the corpses disappeared immediately. However, at this moment, in a certain corner of the sea, corpses fell directly into the sea one by one. The ability of the space fruit has unlimited possibilities. If the ability of the devil fruit is developed to the extreme, Chang Nyo can already run rampant on this sea. Junhee encountered too many surprising things today. Now that he knew that His Majesty the King had devil fruit powers, the way these dozen corpses disappeared was not so incredible. There are more than a dozen devil fruits placed here, plus the remaining devil fruits in the palace. The entire Toru kingdom now has nearly 30 devil fruits. Although half of them have no effect, the remaining part can be used continuously. It's enough to build a relatively strong team. In fact, this is already considered very few. For some large pirate groups, there are at least 100 people in a pirate group with devil fruit abilities. Even among the Yonko pirates in the future, the number of people with devil fruit abilities will be at least 100. The number has even reached thousands. But now the resources of the true kingdom are limited, and they cannot expose themselves too early. They may encounter some more difficult problems in the future. Among the current devil fruit abilities in the pirate world, Superman-type devil fruits have the most abilities, followed by animal-type devil fruit abilities. As for these natural devil fruits, they are almost all the kind that can be encountered but not sought. After walking out of the underground palace gate, Chang Nyo walked in front and asked Junhee directly behind him, how far has your domineering practice reached? Your Majesty, the armament-colored haki can now be attached to weapons, but the seeing and hearing haki is not yet in place. Sometimes you can only slightly perceive something, but for more specific things, it may still take 2 years. Only then can we do it. Junhee said with his head lowered. You have not been exposed to haki for a long time now. From now on, you will be more than just the captain of the King's Guard. The country has now reached this moment. You need to seize the time to train more talents. The entire army has been chosen by you. In the future, the application of domineering power must be popularized, and this thing may very well be the key to your final survival. Chang Nyo said seriously, there are almost only a handful of people who can practice domineering in the 4 seas. Even in the first half of the Great Route, there are only a few people who know domineering. However, in such a quiet corner of the South China Sea, it has begun. Putting the practice of domineering on the military's agenda. Haki training is definitely more practical than devil fruits. In the future, there is almost a huge difference between those who have learned to use haki and those who have not learned how to use haki against enemies in the future. It is precisely because of this that Chang Nyo has paid more attention to this kind of thing from the beginning. Junhee naturally knows the importance of this matter, but now that this country is being watched by so many people, even if it wants to conduct large-scale training, it still needs to be considered in all aspects. Your Majesty, I feel that the entire country currently lacks a more suitable training venue. After all, you have said before that the practice of the sixth form of the Navy and the practice of domineering must not be known to other countries or people with intentions. But now the country is it possible to achieve a relatively secret place, but my subordinates haven't found it yet. Junhee said helplessly. Junhee was able to say this, but Chang Nyo did not refute it, but actually understood it quite well. If the true kingdom wants to develop, then someone will naturally notice such a powerful military force. Having a few hundred people should not be a big problem, but if it has tens of thousands of such troops at once, let alone the world, the government can't sit still. Even the Navy may not agree to such a thing. First find a place to learn some basic things. You can communicate with Luosta about this matter and choose a relatively private place. In up to a year, I will find a place for you that is more private and will not be discovered. Provided for you to use for training. Chang Nyo thought for a moment and said. Now that it was a place that could not be discovered by anyone and still had enough space for so many people to train, there was only one place that Chang Nyo could think of, and that was Sky Island. Sky Island is a very special place, and it has enough privacy and space. Your Majesty, this time we have selected people of the right age from the army for training, but the number is a bit too large. The key is that even if all of our National Guards serve as instructors, we may not have enough manpower. Junhee said with some embarrassment. Then let all the National Guard be dispatched. A total of 500 people will be enough to guide these people in the early stage. There is not much time left for us. The places where we need to fight in the future may exceed your imagination. In the era of great navigation, the situation is unpredictable. Although we live in the South China Sea, what we will face in the future is definitely not as simple as you think. Chang Nyo said with a sigh. Yes. At first, Junhee wanted to retort. After all the National Guards were withdrawn, no one would be able to protect His Majesty the King. But then he thought about it, why does his king need protection from people like himself? He is already the strongest among everyone in terms of strength, and it doesn't matter whether he is protected or not. In the South China Sea, there is no particularly dangerous guy at all. The current space capabilities still need to be improved before we can build a space channel. Chang Nyo looked ahead and couldn't help but think. In the following time, the Kingdom of True appeared on the headlines of newspapers almost frequently. In this era of great pirates, a country in a quiet corner of the South China Sea could be in such a state, let alone the kings of other countries, even those great pirates. Everyone is quite curious. But these things reported in the newspapers are almost what the Kingdom of True wants them to see. The entire True Kingdom, whether it is infrastructure construction or other aspects, has now begun to proceed in an orderly manner. In addition, the economy it has driven has even exceeded everyone's expectations, and the entire country has begun to develop in a good direction. Now there is no need for Chang Nyo to arrange other things. The country's shipbuilding industry, papermaking industry and other retail industries are all blooming, and everyone is scrambling. But then, there were several uninvited guests in the True Palace today. They were all wearing suits and ties, as well as a pair of black sunglasses. Everyone was dressed almost the same, looking like a gangster. The faces of this group of people were all meticulous and showed no expression at all. The leader seemed to be at least about 2 meters tall. He was still a little thin overall, but the aura of a strong man could still be seen at a glance. This was half a year after the end of the first national meeting of the Kingdom of True. The sudden appearance of outsiders like them, let alone the people of this country, even though they had already appeared at the gate of the palace, the guards guarding the palace, no one was curious or surprised. After all, in the past 6 months, the True Kingdom has welcomed countless businessmen from various places, and they are also scrambling for fear of missing the opportunity to make money. I'm sorry, everyone, the palace is in front of us, so it's not convenient for you to visit. You can go to other places. At the gate of the palace, the guard said to several people patiently and respectfully. After all, there are too many tourists in this place, and sometimes you can meet several in a day, so they are not surprised and say it in a good voice. But these 6 men in suits still had cold expressions after hearing what they said. The 2-meter-tall man took off his glasses, looked at the guard with cold eyes, and then kicked him out calmly. The guard who was talking cheerfully just now was lying on the ground in an instant. Of a corpse. The other 3 people guarding the door were stunned for a moment after seeing this scene, but then the 2-meter-tall man did not intend to let them go. In just a moment, the 3 people fell to the ground at the same time. They seemed to be fearless and still maintained their original expressions. They did not say a word from the beginning to the end and acted so domineeringly. They did not leave after killing the people, but started walking directly towards the palace. But it was impossible to hide this kind of thing. After everyone else in the palace found out about it, they all rushed out. But the people who stay in the palace now are almost all ordinary guards with little strength. They have not been trained. As for the previous king's guards, they have already left the royal city and gone to other places to train more people. Although not all of them have left, at least the areas guarding the outer areas of the palace are now filled with ordinary people, holding guns in their hands on guard. So in front of these people are almost no different from ants. The moment they rushed out, several people had already started fighting mode. Not only were they highly powerful, but 2 of them were also devil fruit users. When facing nearly 70 soldiers rushing over to shoot, one of them directly used his demonic ability, and many bubbles began to emerge from his body in an instant, and when these bubbles began to spread to the surroundings, at any time the moment a person touches it, the bubble explodes immediately, and its power is no less than that of a cannonball. Without knowing what was happening to the soldiers, the team of more than 60 or 70 people was almost wiped out in just an instant. However, such a loud explosion also attracted other people in the palace. At the same time, more and more soldiers began to attack them, but the expressions of a few of them remained exactly the same as when they first came in, without fear or any joy, anger, sorrow, or joy. These 6 people were like robots. After the incident was over, they elegantly arranged their suits. Just as they continued to walk forward, a black figure quickly rushed over and quickly swung his leg directly at the 2-meter-tall man in the lead. But despite this, the tall man blocked it easily. Domineering? I really didn't expect that such a person could appear in a small country like the South China Sea. It's really surprising. The tall man at the head finally started to speak, but there was still a disdainful smile on his lips. Haruya suddenly appeared and revealed that he knew how to use haki. Although the first attack was easily dispelled, Haruya rushed forward instantly, with armed haki attached to his legs, and attacked them again. He jumped into the air quickly on the moon steps, and then fell suddenly. He wanted to use this method to directly jump down, but he completely underestimated the characters standing in front of him. The tall man took 2 steps back, and at the same time, a man wearing a red tie walked up behind him. Just when Xia hit the opponent directly, he already felt something was wrong. The opponent clearly felt the attack but had no intention of evading it. He didn't even use his hands to take all of Haruya's attack with his own body. When the attack hit the ground, the slate bricks on the surface were shattered and flew away. After the dust went up, Xia saw that the man under his feet was covered in armed domineering energy, and his whole body became completely dark. His legs were already submerged under the stone slabs, but it seemed that he had not been harmed at all. Haruya was just about to retreat, but the man with the red tie below him instantly grabbed his leg with his right hand, and then punched Haruya directly in the stomach with his left hand. Even though he reacted quickly, Ji immediately used both hands to protect his body, but he still did not escape this strong impact. The man with the red tie just punched him, and he was knocked away and hit the wall behind him. At this moment, even the wall had been hit and cracked. When Xia fell, he was already vomiting blood. The obvious serious injury even made him unable to stand up again. These people are already the most powerful existences he has encountered so far, the kind that are so powerful that no one can match them. Who are you? Why did you force your way into my royal palace? Xia asked weakly. We are CP2 here to find your king, Genji Nagano. The tall man standing at the front said in a cold and mechanical voice. Boss, why are you talking so much nonsense with an ant? Just go up and trample him to death. The man in the red tie smiled sinisterly, and then slowly moved towards the direction where Haruya was squatting. The expression on his face now means that he wants to play. These people don't care at all about the purpose of their coming here. But the governance in front of them also made these guys a little interested. After all, it is still very rare to see people using domineering in the world. The key is that since they saw it here today, although a person's strength is not considered it's very strong, but I can barely play with myself. When the man with the red tie walked up to Xia, he said with a smile on his face and a look of disdain, you ants in the South China Sea. It's rare that you gave us a pleasant thought today, so now I will give you the last gift. Cheng is ready. With a wicked smile on his lips, he said that he was about to use his ability. A pure white bubble instantly appeared on his hand, and then just when he was about to put the bubble into Xia's body, it suddenly appeared someone grabbed his hand instantly. Is it possible that all CP2 guys are like you? I really don't know what those 5 old men from Wulaoxing are thinking. Why do they train you useless trash? Chang Nyo suddenly appeared, with a look of disdain on his lips and began to mock them. His Majesty! Xia shouted weakly, his voice almost inaudible. Who are you? The man with the red tie who had looked arrogant just now suddenly turned cold as he looked at Chang Nyo and asked in a low tone. Come here, send me for treatment and go for treatment. Chang Nyo ignored the red tie man's words and shouted somewhere else. At this time, 2 people jumped out of nowhere and arrived at Xia's side in an instant. Then they picked him up and started to leave. But when they were about to leave, another one of CP2 stopped directly in front of the three of them. Interesting little guy, you must be King Tru, right? I didn't expect that you actually know about the 5 old stars. Tell me, how did you know about it? The tall man came over, wearing sunglasses on his face, without any expression, and asked calmly. Chang Niu looked at the corpses on the ground in front of him. He had lost a lot of people this time. He didn't look angry, and he still had a smile on his face. Seeing the tall man walking towards him, Chang Niu's originally relatively calm face instantly turned into a violent state. CP2? Since you dare to come to my country, or even come to my palace to kill people, are you ready to die? Just when the man with the red tie was wondering if there was something wrong with King Toru's brain, Chang Niu's entire body disappeared in an instant, and they didn't even notice each other's movements when they used their haki. When he appeared again, he appeared directly next to a short man who blocked Haruya and the three of them. His reaction was very fast. Chang Niu kicked him directly in the head, but he subconsciously used his right hand to block. However, Chang Niu's current mood can be imagined. Even though he had already generated strong strength, even if he blocks it, it will fly dozens of meters away in an instant. The two people who were supporting Xia immediately disappeared from this area with Xia after seeing this state. After something happened here in the palace, the whole place was quickly sealed off, and all news was contained within the palace. What an interesting little guy. After so many years, I never thought that someone would dare to resist the CP department. The man in the red tie didn't seem angry, Chang Niu's appearance seemed to bring him unlimited passion. Chang Niu looked at the look of several people. Even though the man with the red tie said so, it was really him who should be angry now. Tell me, how did you know about the 5 old stars of the world government? The tall man took 2 steps towards Chang Niu and asked in a cold voice. First tell me the purpose of your coming here. Awakens asked you to come here, right? It should be to inform me to join the world government. Chang Niu asked with a smile still on his face. That's right. That's enough. Now that the matter has been conveyed, shouldn't it be up to me, King Tru, to bring a little fun to you? Chang Niu said with a provocative look. Hoo, it's interesting. The tall man said with a smile. Seal the palace and prohibit anyone from disturbing my communication with the adults in the CP department. Chang Niu didn't know who he was talking to, and no one responded. Then Chang Niu looked at the tall man and said, there are the treasures of the Toru kingdom behind the palace. I wonder if you are interested in going and taking a look? After all, my palace is the only place where I live now. If it is damaged, then but it's not good. Chang Niu's successive provocations were quite obvious. A subordinate behind the tall man looked at him worriedly and whispered, Boss, if we make things worse, it will have an impact on us. Hi, no one will care about this barren land in the South China Sea. The tall man said disdainfully. Since there is no problem, please come with me. Chang Niu smiled and said politely. The mountain behind the palace must pass through the palace, without any exception. After all, Chang Niu often has to practice there. These guys are still good choices as whetstones, although I don't know what the opponent's strength is. Gagoya, you came just in time. Inform Junhee to prepare fruits for the CP adults and ask him to deliver them to the back mountain as soon as possible. As soon as they reached the door of the palace, Gagoya suddenly appeared, making Chang Niu smile and say, Ah! Gagoya didn't understand what it meant yet, but seeing that Chang Niu had begun to lead several people in another direction, he could only whisper, what's going on? But she was not stupid, and she realized something instantly. She could only start communicating with Junhee through the phone bug, and then informed the other party of the situation here, mainly about fruits. After passing through an arch, the outside is completely different. There are all big trees here, and what appears in front of you is a long staircase, leading directly to a huge platform where Chang Niu usually practices. It's extremely quiet here, not even the chirping of birds. Among the 6 CP department personnel behind Chang Niu, except for one of the guys who was seriously injured by Chang Niu's kick and was a little weak, everyone else's eyes had a certain determination to win. The platform is a venue of almost more than 20,000 square meters, which is more than enough for combat needs. And it's quite a distance from the palace, so there's no need to worry about accidental injuries. Where's the treasure? The tall man walked behind Chang Niu and asked impatiently after walking for so long. You haven't reached the place yet, why are you in such a hurry? The world government has trained you, so you won't be able to endure even this little time, right? Chang Niu said with a hint of sarcasm. But this group of people didn't care at this time. Anyway, everything that followed was insignificant. Walking on this long and narrow path, Chang Niu walked in front and a few people followed behind. For the CP people, there was no need to worry at all. They had enough confidence in their own strength. Everyone has their own little thoughts. Chang Niu forced himself to hold back his inner anger. Facing these people, he was not completely sure, but now that he had reached this point, there was no way out. I wonder what I should call you. As Chang Yo was walking, he suddenly asked curiously. CP2 Division Chief, Alvia Omora. The tall man said directly without refusing. While chatting, they were still walking forward and seemed to have a relatively relaxed atmosphere. You, the king, talk too much nonsense. Where is the treasure? The man in the red tie asked impatiently. Wait a moment, eat some fruit first. As soon as he finished speaking, Junhe appeared in the square with a few people and various fruits in his hands. Your Majesty, what you want? Junhe said respectfully next to Chang Yo. Take them down, don't come up without orders. But Your Majesty. Nothing to worry about, just obey orders. Chang Yo suddenly turned his face, looked at Junhe with a gloomy expression, and said in a cold voice. Yes, Your Majesty. Junhe had no choice but to bow and say, and then started to prepare to leave. I really didn't expect that the small true kingdom would have so many masters. It seems like we need to send people from other CP departments over to take a look. The man with the red tie said to Chang Yo with a smile on his face. Then it's better to wait until everyone leaves here before we discuss it. Chang Yo's voice was no longer the same as before, with his back turned to these people and an angry look on his face. As soon as he finished speaking, he stamped his right foot down suddenly, and a sky-blue barrier suddenly rose up across the square. Devil fruit! The tall man looked at the barriers rising around him and was very curious, but there was no worry in his tone. One of the members even ran to the edge of the barrier to try it out. After an attack was carried out, it immediately turned into stone and there was no ripple at all. Boss, this barrier is very weird. After the tall man heard this, a sinister smile appeared on his lips, and he didn't look too surprised. King True, what do you mean? Do you still want to start a war with our CP department? The man in the red tie asked directly. Chang Yo slowly turned around and looked at the group of people, with a half-smile on his lips, and then said in a flirtatious tone, It's really interesting what you said. If you don't do anything when you come to our true palace, just kill us. With so many soldiers, is it possible that in your eyes, you really think that the entire world is under the control of your world government? In that case, why are you talking so much nonsense? The face of the man with the red tie turned from the smile just now to an instant coldness, and countless bubbles began to emit from his body, and under his push, these bubbles all flew in the direction of Chang Yo. Others continued to watch quietly. Chang Yo was calm at all and had a slight smile. He didn't take the red tie and the blue one seriously. The spatial ability Devil Fruit suddenly showed its power at this moment. All the bubbles disappeared the moment they approached Chang Yo. However, at this moment, hundreds of kilometers away on the sea, explosion scenes kept appearing. However, there was a pirate ship sailing on the sea. At this moment, the people on the ship were already frightened and overwhelmed. They never imagined that there would be such a terrifying and strange scene on the West Sea. The man in the red tie who was fighting had now noticed something was wrong. All his demonic abilities seemed to be contained, and he could not touch the opponent at all. The group of people who were destined to win finally showed shocked looks at this moment. What exactly is this kid's devil fruit ability? The man in the red tie said angrily. Superhuman space ability, I didn't expect that this devil fruit would finally appear after 100 years. The tall man had a wary look on his face, with indescribable shock on his face. He understood this thing very clearly. After all, those people above who formed the CP department wanted to get one of the geometric devil fruits. It is this. Everyone, stop looking, come together and take down the opponent. The tall man directly started shouting orders. Muramasa. When Chang Yo saw that these people were already in serious mode, he also shouted directly. Then Demon Sword Muramasa appeared from nowhere and floated quietly in front of Chang Yo. When you come to my kingdom of True, you actually dare to kill my soldiers. Since you are here today, then stay here and use your lives to atone for your sins. Chang Yo held the demon sword Muramasa in one hand and pointed at them with the other hand and said directly in a cold voice. What are you still doing? Take it down. After the tall man shouted loudly, he quickly rushed to Chang Yo's side and started to attack directly. If the ability of the space system is used well, it will be much more powerful than the natural system, and it may even be completely unsolvable. The tall man kicked Chang Yo with a domineering kick, but Chang Yo standing here seemed to be a mirror image. His attack went directly through Chang Yo's body. Even though he was already equipped with domineering power, in the end, it was not even possible. It has no effect at all. Only now did they start to look serious. When several other people saw this, they all rushed forward. At this moment, in the palace, at the place connected to the back mountain, hundreds of people were fully armed and standing. Each of them was wearing a mask, a uniform white mask, with only 2 eyes exposed. They are also wearing uniform black combat uniforms. The purpose of this group of people staying here is not to let anyone disturb their Majesty the King. The battle inside is still going on, and no matter how loud the noise is, those on the periphery can't hear the slightest sound. However, Chang Nyo, who stood there and was attacked by them for several minutes, suddenly smiled, and then slowly pulled out the demon sword Muramasa in his hand. The powerful and sharp aura once again filled the enchantment space. Everyone, be careful, this knife is not simple. The tall man began to warn these people. There were actually only 5 of them who could participate in the attack. The other one was seriously injured by Chang Nyo's blow before, and now he didn't have much resistance at all. King Taru, is it possible that you want to go against the world government? Seeing that he couldn't defeat the opponent, the man in the red tie threatened directly. You don't need to tell me this. This time, your purpose of coming here has been achieved. Joining the world government is something that has been decided before. This does not have much effect on me, but since you have come to inform me, let's go with the flow. I will still do it. But you dare not act recklessly in my country and hurt my soldiers. This is the worst decision you have ever made in your life. Besides, whether it's life or death, what does the final outcome have to do with the kingdom of True? Chang Nyo said with a smile on his face. King True, I advise you to stop being stubborn. As long as you go back with us, I can guarantee that no one in the True Kingdom will suffer any loss. If you continue, the entire True Kingdom will be destroyed. I will be buried with you for your stupidity. The tall Omura began to say threateningly. Is your CP department all like this? You start to threaten when you feel that you can't defeat it, but have you realized another problem, that is, in the South China Sea, if you die, it seems that it will not have any impact on our Kingdom of True. What loss? Or, who can prove that you disappeared in the South China Sea? Chang Nyo was not moved at all and still said with a smile. He doesn't want to talk nonsense with these people at all now. The demon sword Muramasa has already been pulled out. If he doesn't harvest it, there is no way he can insert it back again. After possessing the spatial ability, his sword skills have broken through at least 2 levels. Chang Nyo started to accumulate strength, and there was no need to use the Haki blessing at all. None of the opponents had natural devil fruit abilities, so there was no need to expend too much energy to fight in the beginning. This time it was not just a simple battle. Chang Nyo wanted to use these people to hone himself and test the extent of his current strength. The fact that Omura can become the leader of CP2 shows that the opponent's strength is certainly not simple. Normally, I train alone and have no chance to test myself. However, this time they came to my door, so I don't need to worry too much about it. Omura has now realized the seriousness of the matter. Although Wu Liaoxing ordered his people to come over and let the Toru Kingdom join the world government, there was no time limit for them to come. They were already delayed. If there was a problem, there really aren't many people who would consider the Toru Kingdom. Nenhai is already relatively weak, so for a character to appear who can compete with the CP department is simply a fantasy. So for this kind of thing that is impossible to happen at all, other people will not think about it at all. Chang Nyo grasped this point, and if the problem of the corpse is properly dealt with when the time comes, then this matter can be solved without anyone noticing. Kova, let's deal with King True, hurry up and find a way to open this barrier. Omura ordered. There is nothing he can do now. The other party's ability to control space is completely beyond what they and others can handle. The most important thing is that if the spatial ability is used properly, it is equivalent to a person who is not domineering dealing with a person with natural abilities. Chang Nyo was never in a hurry from beginning to end. He always wanted to see what tricks this group of people could come up with. Anyway, this group of people are now lambs to be slaughtered. No matter how bad the final result is, even though they are relatively powerful, if their own space barrier is not removed, these guys will not even think about leaving this place. From the first glance, Omaluo and the others seem to be together very often, and their cooperation is completely flawless. For a few of them, even a natural-type devil fruit user like the Admiral would most likely fall into the hands of these people. However, except for one of their original 6 people who was seriously injured, the other one had to find a way. There are only 4 people left who have walked out of this barrier. The strength of the 4 of them cannot be underestimated. So far, only 2 of the 6 have demonstrated devil fruit abilities. The other 4 still don't know what the situation is. Chang Nyo no longer wanted to talk nonsense with them. After accumulating his power, he waved the demon sword Muramasa directly and shouted flying sword style, Long Xiang Shan. Suddenly, nearly a dozen sword lights began to fly towards these 4 people in an instant. The speed was so fast that if these people weren't very experienced in fighting, just this move would be enough to kill them. Long Xiang flash attacks from bottom to top, and can launch 10 attacks instantly. It is so powerful that it can tear the earth apart almost instantly. Omaluo arrived not far from Chang Nyo in an instant. After using his knowledge to sense his own danger, he quickly began to retreat, and then he saw 10 sword lights attacking towards him and the others. The sword glowed blood red, and 10 sharp blade slash marks were directly formed on the floor of the marble slab. Boss, you didn't expect this kid to be a swordsman. The man in the red tie shouted in surprise. No matter how much they thought about it, they never considered that King Tru was such a powerful man. Even if the opponent doesn't have devil fruit abilities, just relying on the current swordsman's swordsmanship is enough to fight them. Don't talk nonsense. The opponent's attack is very sharp. If you are not careful, you will die. Be very alert. Our main goal is to contain the opponent until we find a way to break the barrier. He will suffer in the future. Omura's eyes were cold and his expression was very angry, and he gave orders directly to everyone. When he finished speaking, everyone turned on the serious mode, which was different from the seriousness just now. At this moment, they seemed to have begun to gather all their strength. Omura also began to change. He was still a normal person, but now it seemed as if something was about to burst out of his body. The perfect suit on his body also burst apart. After everything was over, Changyo discovered that this guy Omura was actually a devil fruit user, and he was also an animal-type devil fruit. Silver Moon Wolf, the animal devil fruit phantom beast, it seems that we really caught a big guy today. Changyo looked at Omura, and a smile began to appear on his lips. He has also seen the devil fruit illustrated book. This thing is definitely one of the best among animal devil fruits. Being able to be the leader of CP, I have already guessed that the other party is definitely not simple, but I didn't expect that he would hide such a backhand. Then other people must not be as simple as they think. The abilities of these people have now been determined. The first one is the man with the red tie. This guy's devil fruit ability is the superhuman bubble fruit ability. He can create bubble-like things and produce violent explosions. Using shock waves attack enemies. The second one is the guy who was seriously injured when Changyo came up. As for the devil fruit ability he used, it has not been discovered yet. From the time he was injured until now, he has no way to take action when he gets into the water, so he can only sit next to him. As for the third one, who is now Omura, an animal phantom species, Changyo has reason to believe that the remaining three people are definitely devil fruit users. But while Changyo was still thinking, his body suddenly seemed to be out of control, and even the demon sword Muramasa in his hand fell to the ground instantly. In this situation, Omura rushed up instantly and punched Changyo directly in the abdomen. This time he did not attack the air, but actually attacked Changyo. This attack directly sent Changyo flying backwards for more than 10 meters. Fortunately, when the attack was about to reach him, Changyo instantly regained consciousness and protected his body with armed domineering. But even so, for a strong man like Omura, his attack was enough to seriously injure Changyo. After Changyo fell to the ground, he slowly stood up and squatted down. He still couldn't help but a trace of blood flowing out of the corner of his mouth. Now we have figured out the status of at least one of the other three people. Being able to use mental attacks is really hard to guard against. Mater, you are so careless. You have advised yourself so many times, but in the end you still made such a low-level mistake. Changyo squatted on the ground in some pain, but what made him more painful was that he had already walked such a long way and absorbed so many lessons, and he still had not long enough to remember. He had clearly reminded himself before that no matter what he encountered in the future, what kind of person should not only go all out, but at least raise the highest level of vigilance. However, facing the early attack from this group of people, Changyo was obviously a little arrogant and ignored the detail of defense, which was taken advantage of by the enemy. If it weren't for his current strength, Omura's attack just now would have been enough to kill him. While the other party is injured, go ahead. Omura shouted quickly. He didn't want to miss such a good opportunity now. Although the opponent had the ability of the Space Devil Fruit, they could also see that Changyo's actual combat experience was much weaker in comparison. Changyo squatted on the ground and took a deep breath, then slowly stood up. At this time, they had already rushed over. Barrier. A blue light curtain suddenly appeared around Changyo, blocking the rest of them directly from his body. But he seemed to have too much confidence in his space fruit. The moment Omura rushed up, he directly transformed into the form of the Silver Moon Wolf and attacked the space barrier with a claw. Originally, Changyo considered the barrier to be an absolute defense. Several cracks appeared instantly. Although these cracks are slowly compounding, if the opponent attacks faster, then even if he hides behind this, he will still not be very safe. Muramasa. Following Changyo's shout, demon sword Muramasa, who was still lying on the ground, instantly flew towards the barrier.